3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
To infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Live from the Play Show, yet not overly ostentatious studios of the Infinity Sports Network here in beautiful New York City, sitting on top of the 10th floor of 345 Hudson Street. Welcome on in to what is already a Thursday edition of the Zach Gelb Show across all of our great local Infinity Sports Network affiliates, Sirius XM, Channel 375, the free Odyssey app, and of course, always streaming live on YouTube. 855-212-4227 is the number to jump on in. That's 855-212-4227. You could always get at me on Instagram, where I'm straight flexing, or via the good old cesspool of Twitter, at Zach Gelb. That's ZACHGELB. Merril Hoge is going to stop by coming up 2 hours and 20 minutes from now at 5:20 p.m. Eastern, 2:20 p.m. Pacific time. I saw a tweet today, and it's from Bleacher Report. And the tweet simply read this: quarterbacks that have made 2 Super Bowl appearances during the first 5 years of their career. So if you've been a quarterback, 2 Super Bowl appearances, first 5 years of your career. Here are the 8 names on that list. Patrick Mahomes, I would say already the 3rd greatest quarterback of all time. John Elway, 2-time Super Bowl champion. Russell Wilson has a case to be made that he will be a Hall of Famer. I don't think his career in the later years has gone the way that he wanted to, but before that, Russ has 9 Pro Bowls when I guess it actually meant something to make the Pro Bowl, and he's won a Super Bowl. Kurt Warner, Troy Aikman, the GOAT, Tom Brady, Big Ben Roethlisberger. So those are 7 of the 8. Big Ben, Tom Brady, Troy Aikman, Kurt Warner, Russell Wilson, John Elway, Patrick Mahomes. Quarterbacks that have made 2 Super Bowl appearances through the first 5 years of their career. The other is Jalen Hurts, who we will see 2 Sundays from now in his 2nd Super Bowl as the Eagles are going up against the Kansas City Chiefs. And the last time these 2 teams met in the Super Bowl, yes, Kansas City got the victory, but Jalen Hurts was the best pound-for-pound player in that game. I think today we need to have an honest conversation about Jalen Hurts. And I think this is the week to realize that Jalen Hurts is arguably the most disrespected player in the NFL right now. Think about this entire year. The Philadelphia Eagles ended up getting to another Super Bowl. The Philadelphia Eagles were one of the top 5 teams in the NFL. The Philadelphia Eagles were back and forth, right? 1 seed, 2 seed, 1 seed, 2 seed. In the chase in the NFC, they ultimately ended up getting the 2 seed. But Philadelphia, with their quarterback, never really gets the credit. What do we say about the Eagles? You got the number 1 defense with Jalen Carter, with Darius Big Play Slay, with Zach Bond, with Vic Fangio. Or, when you look at the offense, Jalen Hurts is good, but it's easy to do that when you have Saquon Barkley, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, a great offensive line, right? Dallas Goedert at the tight end position. We don't like to give credit to Jalen Hurts. That's what I realize is the trend. Because the way we consume the quarterback position should be different, but a lot of us are still stuck in our old ways, and it was the way that you were raised where it's how many passing touchdowns does somebody have? And how many passing yards does somebody have? Well, we have so many multidimensional quarterbacks now that you have to encompass all of it. And if I just told you this, that Jalen Hurts, right? I know he's been in the league for 5 years, but really a starter for 4 years. If I were to tell you that Jalen Hurts in that stretch has 140 touchdowns to 39 interceptions and 9 lost fumbles, you would say, yeah, I'd sign up for that. If I didn't tell you who the quarterback was, I just said in a 4-year stretch, anonymous quarterback, 4 to 5 year stretch, has 140 total touchdowns, 39 interceptions, and 9 lost fumbles. Stu, you're a Raiders fan. Your team sucks. Sorry to do that to you, Stu, but it's just the way that it goes. If I told you the Raiders could have a quarterback in a 4 to 5 year stretch that would have 140 total touchdowns, 39 interceptions, and 9 lost fumbles, you would say?
I would take that in a heartbeat.
Right? Now, out of those 140 touchdowns, 85 of them are passing touchdowns. So I saw it last week, and I was actually happy that it happened, where they actually put up total touchdowns on the screen. Because a lot of these times, these networks, Fox, CBS, NBC, Amazon Prime, like whatever it is, ESPN, however you watch your major football game, they will put up the graphic of quarterback A and quarterback B, right? The 2 quarterbacks on the field. And one quarterback could be a mobile quarterback, and sometimes they don't show the rushing touchdowns, which is just crazy to me. But here's what I think is the biggest thing about Jalen Hurts. The dude, everyone has an ego, right? You're an NFL quarterback. everyone, if you're going to be a successful NFL quarterback, you have to have an alpha ego. Jalen Hurts, though, doesn't come off as someone with an alpha ego. Jalen Hurts doesn't come off as someone that really cares about his stats. And don't get me wrong, Jalen Hurts could be passive-aggressive when talking to the press. I've been in those press conferences, right, where it was after the Steelers game. Isn't this what everyone wanted to see? When they got the ball more to A.J. Brown? Or even after the NFC Championship game, he talked about like the whole the straitjacket that he's been in when it comes to the quarterback position. But you look at the career of Jalen Hurts so far and what he's just done in the NFL. Like, hey, in college, he wasn't appreciated at Alabama. Yes, Alabama pulled him at halftime. It ended up being the right decision. They ended up winning that national championship game. For some reason, he stuck around, and then Tua got hurt in that SEC championship game the following year. Boom, Jalen Hurts plays well in that moment, helps him win the SEC championship. Then he goes to Oklahoma, Heisman Trophy finalist in the college football playoff. And when he became the second-round pick of the Eagles, it was like, how could you do that to Carson Wentz? How could you do that? I'll never forget. Since I was doing the Thursday draft show coverage, and then I did my show right after that on Friday as well, and we still did coverage of it, we had Donovan McNabb on. I'll never forget this. We had McNabb on to react to the first round, because I think that was Jordan Love's draft class too, if memory serves me right. So that was a big takeaway. And then we're reacting to, or no, maybe it was Burr. I forget what it was. But whenever that draft class was, we were reacting to the first round of the draft with Donovan McNabb. And the moment after Donovan McNabb hung up, it was, oh, the Eagles are selecting Jalen Hurts. And we called back Donovan McNabb. And Donovan McNabb was like, I was waiting for how long it would take you guys to call me back, because we needed his reaction on the entire thing. And I was right, because that was that 2020 draft class. You know what's wild about that draft class? So that's Joe Burrow. That's Tua Tagovailoa. That's Justin Herbert. And then Jordan Love was in the 26th pick of that draft. You know what's weird when we talk about that? Because those guys played right away, and Jordan Love did it. Stu, I feel like Jordan Love's never associated with his actual draft class. Am I wrong on that? For saying that?
Yeah, it's funny. When you were bringing these guys up, I was trying to remember in my head which guys were in that draft class, and I totally forgot about him.
Because I'm recalling the story here, and I remember talking about Jordan Love with McNabb. And I said to myself, that doesn't seem right. Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert and Tua Tagovailoa, but that's the same draft class. But I guess because Love sat on the bench for 2 years is why he doesn't really get associated with that draft class. But that's the thing. McNabb in the moment actually was more complimentary than what the rest of the national world was in talking about that. And since Jalen Hurts has got to Philadelphia, we've seen the Philadelphia Eagles go in his first year as the starter to a wild card round when they got off to a miserable start. Remember, Sirianni's doing the flower analogy? And everyone was like, uh-oh. I remember talking to Seth Jordan. He goes, this guy may be cooked already. And I thought he was going to be one and done, Sirianni. I really did. Then the second year they go to the Super Bowl. Last year was a disaster because they're 10-1 and they were just dog bleep down the stretch. But they were backed into a corner and had a few turbulent moments to start the year. But now they're 60 minutes away from winning it all. So it's wild to me when I had Jalen Hurts as a top 10 quarterback entering this season. And some people are like, I don't know about that. I don't know if he's a top 10 quarterback. I'm like, well, the guy's been in a Super Bowl. He was the best player on the field when he played in that Super Bowl statistically. And this guy in a 4-year stretch has about 140 total touchdowns. And the turnovers, when you look at them, are 39 interceptions and 9 lost fumbles. And he's made the playoffs all 4 years, wild card round, Super Bowl appearance, lost in the wild card round, and then Super Bowl appearance again. That's pretty damn good. And I know what people are going to say. Oh, but Zach, could he go to New England and have success? No, I don't think he could. I don't think Jalen Hurts could go to New England with the team that they just had this past year, with arguably the worst offensive line in the league, no number one weapon, and pretty much all weapons that are below average. I don't think he could have success. That's not me saying he's a bad quarterback, though. I'll say this. You put Patrick Mahomes in New England this past year. I don't even know if Patrick Mahomes is making the playoffs with the Patriots. But what I will say, if you want to have a fair conversation, because all quarterbacks, right, need something around them to win. You may not need a number one wide receiver, but you need a good offensive line. You may not need a number one wide receiver, but you need a good running back, right? Like, you have to have something else in order to win a Super Bowl. But you look at a team like Atlanta, for example. Just play this game. Atlanta has a good wide receiver in Drake London. They have a really damn good running back in Bijan Robinson. If you tell me you put Jalen Hurts on the Atlanta Falcons this past year, do I think the Atlanta Falcons could have done enough to make the postseason if Jalen Hurts started for Atlanta? Absolutely. I think they would have won that division. So that's the conversation where I think people miss the boat. They don't look at the total touchdowns. They just look at the passing touchdowns. And also, people go, oh, we'll take the talent away from him. He's not going to be as good. No crap. It's a team game. But if you put Jalen Hurts on a lot of other teams that were like teetering on making the postseason, do I think he could have been the difference maker? Yeah, I could. Because he doesn't care how they win as long as they do win. That's what he cares about. And I'm not saying that these quarterbacks necessarily are a problem. But, like, do I think if Jalen Hurts was I know Tua wasn't healthy, but if Jalen Hurts played all 17 regular season games, and I know Jalen missed a few at the end of the season, but if he played all 17 for the Dolphins, I think the Dolphins could make the playoffs with him? Yes. You look around at the other destinations. If Jalen Hurts is starting quarterback on the Jets this year, do I think they can make the playoffs? Yes. So, like, you go through it and you look at it, do the Browns win more than 3 games this year if Jalen Hurts is their quarterback? Absolutely. Does Jacksonville at 4-13, could they be a playoff team with Jalen Hurts? Yes. The Colts, if they had Jalen Hurts, that's a great example. Michael Pittman Jr. good, Jonathan Taylor really damn good. If you put Jalen Hurts on that team, they're 8-9 right now. The Texans ended up being 10-7. Do I think that Jalen Hurts with the Colts could have been just as good as the Texans this year? Absolutely. So let's have an apples-to-apples comparison. If you're just going to tell me, if you take the talent away from him, he's not going to be that good, all right. Like, New England is as bare as it comes right now on the offensive side of the ball. You tell me what quarterback puts New England in the postseason. And if you just say it's Mahomes, all right, I know Jalen Hurts is not better than Patrick Mahomes. But if you tell me that you take a team with some pieces, not all the pieces the Eagles have, but some pieces, can Jalen Hurts make them better? Absolutely. So I do believe that the way we talk about Jalen Hurts, in a year where they are back in the Super Bowl, and he has gotten very little credit, I think he's one of the more disrespected, if not the most disrespected player in the NFL. Stu, give me a name here. Let's go quarterbacks first, because I asked Stu and Samter to compile a little list here. I said player. I wanted to say quarterback. So give me your quarterback who you think is the most disrespected in the NFL.
I think it's Baker Mayfield. I think he had a really good year this year. He's had a couple decent years, and he had the second most touchdown passes this year, the third most yards. You wouldn't really think that. You would think he'd be somewhere maybe between 6 and 10. But he puts up some really good stats, and I think he's someone that isn't considered as good as he probably is.
And also, the disrespect for Baker started in Cleveland. Now, I get it wasn't all the Browns' fault, and Baker wasn't perfect in Cleveland. But you can't really get too picky when you're the Cleveland Browns. You've had like 3,000 quarterbacks since you guys became a franchise once again, and you've always got it wrong. This guy took you to the playoffs, and won you a playoff game, and you were so ready to get rid of him because, I get it, you thought he was just good, not great, and you thought Deshaun Watson could be great, and that backfired on you. So Baker's a good one, and I love the last 2 years that he's put together with the Buccaneers. Samter, who's your most disrespected quarterback?
For me, I don't even think it's close. It's Dak Prescott.
That's what I thought you were going to say.
Everyone goes after Dak as like this scrub. I understand the lights are bright in Dallas, and he's fallen short in the playoffs. He's led the NFL in multiple categories. He's led the NFL in touchdown passes. He's won 62% of his games since he took over. He has a career 67 completion percentage. He's been over 4,000 yards multiple times, over 30 touchdowns multiple times. The dude is an elite level passer. He just falls short in the playoffs, and he has like this circus of an organization that he has to deal with. But like Dak,
so that's where I'll push back.
Yeah,
I can't ever use the word elite with Dak, but that's where the conversation starts. Because he gets paid elite money, right? So then and a lot of guys get paid, hot take of the day, a lot of guys in the NFL get paid elite money and they're not elite players. But I'm never going to fault someone for getting what you could get in the most violent sport that we have in American sports, in our country. But you look at a guy like Dak Prescott, he's a good quarterback. He is a good quarterback, a very good quarterback. But when you get paid $60 million a year, people expect Dak Prescott to be a top 5 quarterback in the league. People expect Dak Prescott to go get to an NFC title game, and that team always comes up short. But I do agree with you. I do think because it's so one way or another in this world, right? You either have to be all in or all out. There can't be just the acknowledgement that Dak is very good, but he's not great. But then you're right. People talk about him like he is a bum when he's the farthest thing from a bum. Now, with that being said, since you guys kind of did this, give me your player that you think is disrespected that's not a quarterback.
So I will ironically go with Baker Mayfield's teammate in Mike Evans. Now, I don't think people don't think Evans is good.
You're Mr. Buccaneer.
I know, I am.
Fire the cannons! Fire the cannons!
I think when we talk about, as a whole, when we talk about the best receivers in the league, Jamar Chase gets brought up, Justin Jefferson, Tyreek Hill. I feel like Mike Evans is always kind of like on the outside of that list.
Yeah.
And look what he's done, 1,000 yards every year, over 100 career touchdowns. Just an elite receiver that I don't think gets put into that list, and he probably should.
So you know why? And Mike Evans is one of my favorite players in the league. I've drafted him for years in fantasy football, and I always feel as if it's a great value pick because it's not a sexy name like you're saying, a Justin Jefferson, a Tyreek Hill, or a Jamar Chase. He's just so damn consistent. He is just so damn consistent. He's not your diva wide receiver. I'm not saying all those guys just mentioned are necessarily, but because Justin Jefferson's not a diva. You could argue Jamar Chase is. You could argue Tyreek Hill is. I wouldn't argue it. I would just say that I would argue it. I'd say it's the case. But anyway, you look at Mike Evans. He doesn't have that flashy personality, and he's not an explosive player, but the dude just as productive. He's just so productive, and he's going to be a Hall of Famer. So that's a good one. Samter, who's your player?
It's funny, Stu mentioned a wide receiver. He also mentioned Jamar Chase, his teammate T. Higgins. Everyone's like, oh, T. Higgins, good receiver, good number 2. But, he probably just gets open because Jamar Chase is constantly getting these double teams. T. Higgins is elite. He is an elite level. I say this word elite. This dude,
you see this difference between you and I. You use elite like it's like giving out candy on Halloween.
I use elite in the sense from a wide receiver standpoint, is he a number 1 wide receiver on a team?
Oh, yeah, he is.
T. Higgins is a number 1 wide receiver. He just happens to be the number 2 because Jamar Chase is top 3 in the NFL.
You know who T. Higgins is? I'll tell you exactly who T. Higgins is. T. Higgins is like when Anquan Boldin was with the Cardinals, where we all knew Anquan Boldin was a really good wide receiver. Anquan Boldin, though, when he got away from the Cardinals, that's when he got a lot more publicity because it was out of the shadow of Larry Fitzgerald, who's arguably one of the top 5 greatest wide receivers that the game has ever seen. And a guy like T. Higgins, he has a decision to make where are you going to stay or are you going to go? And if you go, you may get more individual pop, but you may not have, and I know the Bengals missed the playoffs last year, you may not have as much team success, but they were in a Super Bowl a few years ago. And that's the trend that I'm fascinated to see what T. Higgins does. Now, the Bengals are cheap and probably won't pay him anyway because they still got to pay Jamar Chase, and they just paid Joe Burrow. But will receivers now, when you see these duos, like a Tyreek Hill and a Jalen Waddle, and Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, right? Teams are now understanding with how much they pass. You not only need 1 number 1 wide receiver, you need 2 number 1 wide receivers. So interesting names there. Because when I was talking about just players, not quarterbacks, I expected Dak was going to be there. I wasn't thinking Baker, but Baker is a phenomenal one. And I threw out Jalen Hurts. When I just opened up the players, I had no clue which way you guys were going to go. And I was not anticipating Mike Evans and T. Higgins to be mentioned. All righty. Zach Gelb here with you on the Infinity Sports Network, 855-212-4227, 855-212-4227. Who is the most disrespected player in the NFL? Coming on back.
You're in a 5-minute break. 4 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back to the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
All right. It is Zach Gelb Show, Infinity Sports Network. Someone's got some splaining to do. Mike, I'll ask you a question here. I got courted today by a colleague of ours. When I got in, had a complaint. Do you think the complaint was about you, or do you think the complaint was about Stu? Who do you think the complaint was about, if I was to just ask you, without giving you any background?
Knowing that nobody ever complains about anything to do with Stu, it was clearly about me.
Survey says Stu was being an instigator yesterday. And Stu was being a jackass yesterday. So Anthony Gallo, who does a great job on the digital side.
Gallo doesn't count.
No, he does. He does. I like Anthony Gallo. You know what? Like, you two could always knock people down around here. I try to uplift everyone. I try to be the motivational speaker around here for everyone. I try to, people that are failing in life, I try to suck the best out of them and then make a way that they go advance their career. That's what I try to do. I'm like a vampire, right? I grab all their insecurities out of them and I make sure that they find a way to go elevate to greatness. That's what I try to do. But Anthony Gallo brought in his girlfriend yesterday. So she wanted to see the office, whatever, Gallo brings her in. So, I had a nice conversation with the two of them. Very nice couple. And Anthony Gallo goes, "Oh, this is Zach. He's the one that always says nice things to me. He always compliments me." That's literally how I was introduced to his girlfriend. Because I guess the girlfriend's like, "Hey, you got to lose a little weight." And I'm like, "Oh, Gallo, you look good, man. That's a nice shirt that you're wearing." And I wouldn't say those things if they aren't true. But that's how I kind of view Anthony Gallo, who I really like around here. So yesterday they brought in a bunch of donuts. Dunkin' Donuts did like a whole donut drop to the station. And I heard not one but two people made the same joke.
Three people. Wait, I'll tell you the two, then you tell me who the third was. And Gallo courts me. He goes, "I'm very disappointed in Stu and Hickey." I go, "What do those two jackasses do now?" And he goes, "Well, Stu walked over and he goes, in front of my girlfriend, 'Hey, Gallo, by the way, there's donuts over there. What, you have two already?' And then I guess Hickey walked over and he said the same damn thing. So who was the third person? The third person would be Sean Marash.
And he knows a thing or two about eating 7 donuts. Why do you guys have to do Gallo like that? And, he brings his girlfriend in. You could tell Anthony Gallo, he was like all proper yesterday. He wasn't a degenerate yesterday. He's not screaming, yelling. He's like acting nice and sweet. And you could tell he was a little bit nervous, throwing his girlfriend basically to the wolves here at 345 Hudson Street.
Like a different person, basically.
And you need to go there. And when a man is just trying to impress his woman, and you just try to basically take his kneecaps out, Stu. If it was Samter, I would expect it. If I was expecting there to be like a weasel and make like a witty comment, it would be Samter. You, sweet Stu, that we always think is right. Sweet Stu. Everyone loves Stu. Stu's the greatest thing in the world. You have an evil side to you.
There might be. Now for context, to be fair, he is my best friend for like 30 years.
Have you met his girlfriend before?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes, we know each other. So it was more tongue-in-cheek just to get a reaction out of him. I may or may not have asked Hickey to do the same thing, which is why he did it.
So
to
you
make
were the ringleader.
Yes.
Did you tell Mraz
I did
that
not.
as well?
He did that on his own.
Oh my goodness gracious! All right, so you and Gallo have been best friends. I knew that for 30 years. But like, what's your relationship like with his girlfriend? Because like sometimes, right, a buddy, has a girlfriend, serious girlfriend, and you don't really know much about the girlfriend. Like you guys have like double date, like hung out, all that stuff.
Yeah, like between 5 and 10 times.
What was her reaction when you said it?
So I didn't look. I think she just like looked at him, and
because basically what you did was you basically said, "Hey, Fatso, there's like 7 donuts over there. Did you already fill your gullet with them?" That's basically what you did.
Pretty much, without saying that. Yes, that's pretty much what I did.
You're an evil person. You son of a bitch. Seriously, you are an evil person. Talking about evil, we'll get an update with Manny Rodriguez coming up in a few moments. And Manny, I have something I want to play for you, and I need an explanation. So you're going to have some explaining to do as well.
Oh, dear. All right.
So I will get to that coming up momentarily. But right now, I saw Andrew Berry came out the other day and was basically like, we wouldn't even entertain 2 first-round picks for Myles Garrett. Here's my question. Why not? Like, don't get me wrong. Myles Garrett is one of the most fierce defensive players in the NFL. He is an unbelievable player. The Browns are nowhere close. And I know things could change quickly in this league, but you missed on your quarterback. You gave up all your picks to go get that quarterback that ended up being horrible. You had the 2nd overall pick in the draft. If I'm Myles Garrett and you say you want to win a championship, why the heck are you staying in Cleveland? Could you tell me the Browns get in the postseason again within the next 3 years? Absolutely. I would safely bet a lot of things that in the next 5 years, right, the remaining prime years of Myles Garrett's career, that the Browns don't get to a Super Bowl or they don't even get to a conference championship game. Hot take, I know, sizzling hot. So if I'm Myles Garrett, I would say I'm one of the best players, period, in the league. Let me go to a place where I can go actually win a championship. Now, I'll throw 2 more names out there. TJ Watt and Micah Parsons. I'll go around the room here. Should TJ Watt or Micah Parsons want to go to a different team? Just give me a yes or a no, no explanation. Stu, should TJ Watt want to go to a new team? Yes or no?
Yes.
Samter, yes or no?
No way.
Manny Rodriguez?
I'll say no.
No. I'm going to say yes. I don't think TJ Watt has the cojones to request a trade out of Pittsburgh. I don't. TJ Watt is, in my opinion, the best defensive player in the league. But I don't think TJ Watt would go into the Steelers organization and their brass and say, hey, I want out right now when he's still in his prime. Because the Steelers, they're still viewed as a gold standard organization. They're still viewed as a very good organization, but they're nowhere close to winning a Super Bowl. This is an organization, they haven't won one lousy playoff game since the 2016 season. So, yes, I think TJ Watt should request a trade. I don't think he will, though. Now, here will be a fun one. Micah Parsons, who I would argue is maybe the most polarizing player in the NFL. He plays for the Cowboys. He talks a lot of smack. He is a heck of a player that a lot of teams would want. But the Cowboys, right, we all know their history. They haven't sniffed an NFC title game or a Super Bowl since the 1995 season. Stu, should Micah Parsons request a trade? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Samter, yes or no on Micah Parsons?
Yeah, I'll say yes.
Manny?
Make it 3, yes.
I'm going to say no.
Why is he like this?
No, here's why. Micah Parsons is basically what the Cowboys are. He is someone that's all about the drama. He loves the podcasting world, right? And I have no problem with the podcast. And I'm not saying that he doesn't care about winning, but the Cowboys don't care about winning. The Cowboys care about creating drama, being in the headlines, being stars, all that stuff. And I think Micah Parsons prioritizes those other things than doing whatever it takes to win. He is one of the best players in the league, period. If I'm him, though, I think him and Dallas is the perfect match. They are the perfect match for one another, just in my opinion. Yes, Samter.
You're right in that sense that it feels like his personality matches that of the Dallas Cowboys' greatest show and America's team. But this is, I think, why he needs to get out of Dallas.
Fair.
The dude has had 13 and a half, 14, and 12 sacks in 13 games this year.
And he was a heck of a leader and teammate this year.
He is like, I mean, we've talked about, the 5 best pass rushers. He's in that elite class of the best, without question. But I think people diminish his impact because of all that stuff, because of his podcast, because of the talking, because of Jerry Jones, because of the Cowboys' failures and their defensive struggles over the past few years. He individually, if he goes somewhere else and keeps doing this, he'll start getting the recognition legitimately that he might be, if not the best, like among that TJ Watt group.
Well, I think he gets the recognition. I just don't think it's
crazy. But he
crazy.
gets knocked down a lot, though.
No, I don't agree with that. Everyone views him as a top 5 pass rusher in the league. Heck, most people view him as the 3rd best pass rusher in the league, and I think that's a little bit too quick. I'd rather have Max Crosby than Micah Parsons. I said that before. But TJ Watt and Myles Garrett are just better. They're just better in terms of what they have done so far in the NFL, and those guys have been around longer. Now, I got to get to Manny. I need you to take me through something here, okay? You sure you're ready to do this?
I am nodding, yes.
Okay. So you're not going to the Super Bowl, right?
That's correct now.
But Maggie and Perloff are?
And EJ, yes.
And EJ is as well.
Yeah.
And I love going on the road with Maggie, Perloff, and EJ. We had a blast last year in Las Vegas. And I know EJ wasn't a part of the show when we were all together in Kansas City for the draft. I saw a show promo that was just released on Instagram.
Yeah.
Now, before you comment,
Okay.
we need everyone else to be the judge. I know you can't see it, but you can hear it. Stu Kovacs, fire away.
All right, guys, let's give them something before New Orleans, all right? And a 1, and a 2, and a oh, yeah, let's go. New Orleans, yeah. All right, guys, cool. Awesome, take 5. I think we got it. You sound really great.
Let's go.
Awesome.
Get it.
Your thoughts on the promo, now hearing the final product.
That is what Grammys are made of. That is a Grammy-winning performance out of that quintuplet.
I think that was, like when I think of jazz music, Fats Waller, I think of.
Sure.
You guys were not even close to Fats Waller.
I strongly disagree. If you play that back, you can really hear the passion that we're playing. With, especially Perloff. I mean, Perloff really...
You guys sounded like you had 5 hurricanes, which is a drink in New Orleans, if you're not familiar.
Oh,
and
I
that's
visited
what
New
you would
Orleans.
sound like if you had 5 hurricanes.
Well, you know what? Taylor Swift is one of the best artists in the world, and some people don't see eye to eye with her music. You know what? Everybody has their opinions, even the wrong ones like yours, and, we'll just keep going with it. But you know what? That is, I repeat, a Grammy-winning performance.
Now, can I just ask a simple question here?
I like simple.
You guys were using like plastic trumpets or something like that? Is that what they were?
Yeah.
When did you record this? Just wondering.
Like a week ago ish.
And you guys, right, are pretending to play the trumpets, right?
Yeah, trumpets, saxophones. We're not pretending. Those actually made sounds.
Hey, Mike, remember a week ago when you saw that there was a plastic trumpet in the newsroom and you picked it up? And you put your mouth on it and you started to airplay it?
Oh, no.
Samter, I put my tongue in that thing. I did not touch it afterwards.
Yeah, well, I said to Samter, I go, you picked that up and you put your mouth on that? I go, you have no clue where that's been.
I Frenched that thing like I was in Paris.
Yeah.
I will say this, of that crew, I would choose Manny to be the one whose instrument I use next. I mean, Perloff, I don't know where that's been. I can't trust EJ either. And then Bogish, I mean, that guy, no way.
Yeah. So
Bogish is the worst.
That was an interesting promo. That's all I'll say. It's just interesting.
Sounded great, though.
I'm glad Manny compared himself to Taylor Swift. We have called him the Taylor Swift of the newsroom before.
Everybody calls me that.
Yeah.
Down the hall, especially.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's ever called you that.
Well, agree to disagree.
Yeah, there's 0% chance anyone's ever called you that. Anyway, we'll take a break. Zach Gelb here with you on the Infinity Sports Network. We'll update some of the biggest stories in the world of sports with some audio next. We will get to a news brief. But first up, he's from a Tone Pit show.
Damn.
I'm just kidding. I love everyone. I love everybody. Love everybody. And I get what you guys are trying to do there, but I saw that video and I was like, ooh. I was like, a little interesting right there. Here is Manny Rodriguez.
Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash.
And this flash is sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Zach, insurance for motorcycles, boats, and RVs for protection on the road and on the water. See how much you can save at 1-800-PROGRESSIVE and Progressive.com. 4 days after his team was sent home by Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, Bills GM Brandon Beane spoke today with the media, and despite conversations with the league office, he remains convinced that Josh Allen converted that 4th and 1.
I feel like he got that, and I still feel like he got that. I felt that in the moment, and nothing has changed my mind on that.
Tomorrow is the 31st anniversary of the Bills' last Super Bowl appearance. Ravens kicker Justin Tucker says the allegations in the Baltimore Banner are unequivocally false. The Baltimore Banner reports 6 massage therapists are accusing the 13-year vet of inappropriate sexual behavior from 2012 through 2016. The Ravens and the NFL both declined to comment. And in the NBA, federal prosecutors have an open investigation involving former Hornet and current Heat Terry Rozier. The league was made aware of unusual betting activities involving Rozier in a 2023 matchup between the Hornets and the Pelicans. I'm Manny Rodriguez.
Hey, like us on Facebook. Our handle is INF Sportsnet. That's INF Sportsnet for our Facebook page. This is the Infinity Sports Network.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. $45 seconds remaining. 30 seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Time for your daily news brief. We get you caught up on the rumors, reports, and reconnaissance from the day in sports.
All righty, news brief time of the Zach Gelb Show, and this portion of our program is sponsored by Hyundai. Hyundai helps protect you and your family on the road. We put your safety first, and everything else is second. I want to start off with John Calipari. So John Calipari's Arkansas team with Pig Suey is going back to Lexington this week, where they're going up against the Kentucky Wildcats this weekend. So it's the return of John Calipari in Lexington. And this is John Calipari on his return to Rupp Arena coming up later on this week.
We're going to have 3 players that played there. My guess is they're going to get booed. My guess is I'm going to get booed. And you all saying, oh, yeah. But that's all part of it. I mean, shoot, you get booed. I've done this so long. How could I tell you, I got bazooka holes in my body. So when you shoot arrows, it doesn't even hit skin. It just goes through one of those bazooka holes. But it'll be interesting. It's can't say I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to coaching, but to walk in and, you know, the vibe, I don't know how I'm going to take it, to be honest with you. I mean, that was a special time in my life. 15 years we gave. 15.
I think it's kind of lame if Big Blue Nation doesn't give him a standing ovation. If they're booing him, there will be people that are going to boo. But I think it's really lame because most of you wanted Calipari gone. So Calipari leaves. I know he goes to another SEC school. It's Arkansas. All right? And I get it, right? He takes some of those players. So it wasn't the ideal ending, but you can't be mad with someone for realizing, hey, the writing was on the wall and he was going to be back next year if he wanted to, and he ended up going and taking the Arkansas job. So that, to me, from afar, it's like, all right, you wanted this guy out. Would you rather have him come back next year instead of go to Arkansas? I don't think you would have. So I think with the guy that's won a championship there, it wasn't as great as what you thought it was going to be. He should still get a round of applause, but I'm sure it's going to be nasty. Let's get to Julian Edelman. He was on the Rich Eisen Show right here on the Infinity Sports Network, and he talked about all the bitching and complaining about the Chiefs getting all the preferential treatment from the refs.
It's apparent when you're on top, everyone wants to try to bring you down. It's a bunch of bull-loney that the league is helping the Kansas City Chiefs. If you got a problem with it, go beat them. Okay, the refs aren't involved in when you throw interceptions, when you fumble the ball, when you jump off sides, when you don't convert 3rd down or 4th down or 3rd and 4th down for short 4 times. They can't control that. Like, if you want to beat them, go beat them. Don't talk about it. Be about it. I'm so sick and tired of hearing people say that about the Chiefs.
So off of that, let's go to Dean Blandino. What show is he on? Who's this guy? I never think I heard of him before. The DA show with Babchick on Sirius XM, Mad Dog Radio. Our pals, of course, Damon Amendola and Mike Babchick. They had Dean Blandino on, and they asked him, is the NFL rigged?
My brother, who is convinced that the league is rigged, that is convinced that I signed an NDA. I signed an NDA when I left the league office that I cannot tell anybody that it's rigged because I was head of officiating. We grew up in the same household, by the way. Wow. I said, listen, there's no conspiracy. The officials, there's too many variables. There's too much going on. To me, it's the hardest sport when you think about football with 7 different officials to say, okay, I'm going to rig this game, or the game is rigged from the league office down. The officials are just trying to get it right.
That's great audio. My own brother is such a conspiracy theorist that he believes I signed a non-disclosure agreement, so I can't even admit that. Imagine Thanksgivings in that house with Dean Blandino. Let's go to the Bills GM, Brandon Beane, on the officiating versus the Chiefs.
It's frustrating. There's only so much I can say. We work with the league to try to get clarity, and I'll give them credit. They've taken our calls. They've sent video and things like that. I just, I wish, if you're talking about like the fourth down play, I feel like he got that. And I still feel like he got that. I felt that in the moment. And nothing has changed my mind on that. The play that we challenged, I thought was a good challenge. I'm not sure either player had possession on the Bishop Worthy play. What is possession, and what Matt says is possession might not be what Elena says is possession. You know what I mean? It's a little bit. But when the ball touches the ground, someone has to have established possession, and they've given how they see it, and that's their job. But it is what it is. I mean, that's by no means are we saying that's why we lost the game.
So I don't think that the Chiefs won that game because of the officiating. The officiating wasn't perfect. I didn't love the officiating. I understand that Brandon Beane's doing an end-of-the-year press conference, so he's got to address it and then be done with it. But I hear that, like, the Bills I read today were talking to the league off. What is that going to do? So league office can say, oh, we maybe got this one wrong. And then what? You still lost the game. So I don't think that the NFL's like, hey, let's give the Chiefs all the calls. But do the Chiefs get some calls that you go, makes you think that way? Yeah, you do. But ultimately, I don't think the game is rigged. All righty. Sometimes older people say some things that used to be a term when they were growing up. And it's completely different. Here is Jerry Jones. You be the judge.
There's a very low percentage of this that is smiles and glory holes. Very low percentage.
Smiles and what?
Smiles and glory holes.
Sorry. Did he say what I think he just said? Go ahead, Stu, one more time.
Smiles and glory holes.
So I went into the archives of Reddit, and this is what someone explained. Miners would use the term glory hole for a spot in the ground that would yield an exponential amount of gold, oil, whatever natural resources they were looking for. Chera, I don't think you should be using the term glory hole and using it the way that you think you're using it, because the rest of the world
and glory holes.
The rest of the world is like, huh? What did you just say? Smiles and glory holes?
Smiles and glory holes.
I can't wait till Jerry Jones is like sitting down eating his McDonald's sandwich that he eats with his 10,000 pounds of salt on it. And like, why am I going to backlash or say in the word glory holes? I'm just trying to sit back and use that minor term. That's something. That audio is rich. Rich. That's all I'll say. All righty. We'll get to Cam Newton next. He'd rather have his league MVP than a Super Bowl. Do you agree? We get to that when we come on back.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. 3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
All righty, welcome back in. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. You know, I just try to be as honest as possible on this show. And sometimes we go after people that we don't like. Sometimes we go after people that we like. It's just the way that it is. I don't think that we give people different treatment. This one really annoys me because I'm just disappointed. And this person I've known for many, many years. I think this person is one of the best football analysts in the country, and he is wildly successful. But everyone has a problem. And when it comes to food, Dan Orlovsky has a food problem. So I see a video that Ryan Clark just put out. And Ryan Clark puts out a video of Dan Orlovsky eating what I would argue is my favorite sweet tooth snack, a Reese's Peanut Butter Cup. You know, if this was Halloween and we're doing top 5 Halloween candies, I would say that Reese's Peanut Butter Cups are my favorite Halloween candy, just candy, period. Chocolate, peanut butter, 2 thumbs up for me. You know, if you're going to be in a certain mood and you're looking to munch on something or snack on something, maybe do like a little quick trip to 7-Eleven and get something off the shelf, a Reese's Peanut Butter Cup, you can't go wrong. So I need you to explain this to me. Samter or Stu, either one of you could explain it to me. Because Dan Orlovsky right now, he looks like a pigeon on the streets of New York City just pecking away at food. What the heck is he doing to this beautiful, scrumptious, mouth-watering, delicious Reese's Peanut Butter Cup? Because I see him basically picking it up, taking a bite, and then spitting something out. What the heck is going on out there? What is he doing?
So here's what I'll tell you. So according to the caption from Ryan Clark, Orlovsky doesn't like milk chocolate. And so what he's doing is he's eating like a little bunny rabbit, like a little pigeon, like a bird pecking away.
Be careful.
Yeah, that's right. I don't want to get banned on Twitter again.
Be careful.
X, as they now call it. And he is nipping away at the chocolate, biting it, spitting out the chocolate, and then eating the peanut butter. Now, here's where I understand Dan Orlovsky. I used to love peanut butter cups, but now the milk chocolate kinds are way too rich for me. So I only eat the dark chocolate peanut butter cups. So I understand his disdain for the milk chocolate, but you either eat it or don't eat it. Don't eat around it and chew out just the milk chocolate and eat the peanut butter.
Dan
it makes
Orlovsky,
no sense.
I know that you may just have a snack in the office, right? And beggars can't be choosers at that point. Dan Orlovsky makes a lot of money. If Dan Orlovsky doesn't like a milk chocolate Reese's Peanut Butter Cup, he's got the money to spend the $2.75 or whatever they charge you for the dark chocolate Reese's Peanut Butter Cup. This is a disservice to the Reese's Peanut Butter Cup community. As someone that is a member of that community, I'm appalled, I am offended, and I am disgusted with a friend in Dan Orlovsky. And for the last 4 or 5 years, I think Dan Orlovsky, we don't book this together. He's always on my flight to the Super Bowl. Either going there or coming back, he has always been on my flight one way or another. If I see him going to New Orleans, whether it's me flying there Sunday or coming back on Monday evening, and he's on my plane, I may get kicked off the plane. I may get kicked off the plane because I may throw hands with Dan Orlovsky as he is pecking away at the milk chocolate of the Reese's Peanut Butter Cup to just get to the peanut butter. You know what he should be? I would do a Super Bowl commercial. And I would have him do how many licks does it take to get to the center of the Tootsie Pop or whatever it is? That is what Orlovsky looks like in this video. That is appalling. And also, what's your biggest reaction on this? Just wondering, Samter.
I'm disgusted.
No. When you actually break it down and you look at what is happening, outside of just disgust, is there something that stands out in particular to you? Because, right, he is taking out the milk chocolate, which is on the outside, right? Mm-hmm. To just get to the center, which is the peanut butter?
Mm-hmm. And he's spitting out the chocolate parts.
So here's my thing. When I look at this, when I have a Reese's Peanut Butter Cup, I always taste a good amount of peanut butter. The work that he's putting in and the amount of peanut butter that is there at the end, it does not look like a lot of peanut butter. This is too much of a workout for a fattening snack. And that's probably why I'm most offended by this video. That's terrible.
I will give him credit. He's spitting the chocolate back into the cup part of the wrapper. So
disgusting.
At least he's recycling the cup.
Oh, he's more sanitary than you with that trumpet, if I'm being honest. That Maggie and Perloff were playing for a promo shoot. You didn't realize they were playing the trumpet. Samter sees it in the newsroom, and he puts his mouth on the trumpet, which, by the way, there's another wrinkle to this story that you told me during the break.
Oh, no.
Tiki, you played the trumpet, then you handed it to Tiki Barber, And Tiki Barber then put his mouth on the trumpet as well?
Well, I didn't directly hand it to him. He came by later on, saw it on my desk,
And you
grabbed
didn't
it,
tell
and
him?
started playing it.
You didn't tell him?
You know, me and Tiki go way back. He doesn't mind.
So you guys are swapping spit. You swap spit with Maggie and Perloff's show. And if we have a mono outbreak here, a Sam Darnold outbreak, it's all going to go back to that trumpet.
Well, you can start calling me Mono Mike instead of the other name you've been calling me.
I like Moist Mike better.
I don't.
But Mono Mike Stew is
Has
pretty
a ring
good.
to it, yes.
But you got to actually get mono.
Yeah.
So if you go back to being 13, which some people might confuse you with the 13-year-old.
You know, when I
and you end
shave
up
for
getting
next
mono,
week,
okay.
yeah.
You're shaving next week?
Oh, yeah.
Why?
I went beard one time at Radio Row, and everybody just commented on the beard.
Yeah.
So I stopped getting rid of it. I just started getting rid of it.
You without a beard, I've seen it once. I like you better with the beard. Now, do what you want. You got to go shave, go shave.
We will be in New Orleans, so maybe the beard will kind of play down there.
Yeah, I think the beard is good. I would keep it, but I understand that if you got to answer to these pain-in-the-ass PR people anyway about your beard, there's 10,000 other things you got to answer them about. So, okay. We're going to see clean-shaven Mike on Radio Row in New Orleans. 855-212-4227, 855-212-4227. Chris in Alabama, next up on the Zach Gelb Show, wants to jump in on this conversation that we were having earlier about Jalen Hurts being disrespected. Chris, go ahead.
Let me talk to you, Zach Gelb. First off, let me address should be the phrase.
Are you on a speakerphone, Chris?
Yeah, let me switch there. Hold on.
Yeah, you sound like you're in a cave, so let me know when you're off speakerphone, and then we can continue this conversation, because I could barely hear a word that you were saying. You back with us?
Me now?
It's like a Verizon commercial. Can you hear me now? Good. Yeah, we got you, Chris. Go ahead.
All righty. First, let me address the elephant in the room. Who was it that said that underrated was Mike Evans and Dak Prescott? Because they asked me they were properly rated. If anything, there might be overglazed, because last time I checked, when Marshall Lattimore was on the opposite side of Mike Evans, he put him on his tax returns. And then apparently when it's smoking in Arlington in there, who was it? It was Dak Prescott is too busy choking up a game. But that's side of here. That's point here and there. You're right when you say the most underrated QB in the league is Jalen Hurts. Why? Because it's been like that since day one. He had so many criticizers before he could even sniff the field in his first season, and they think he was picking off after Carson Wentz and picking up after his leftovers, and he didn't immediately have a success in year one of him being a starter. That everyone write them off, call him Taysom Hill 2.0.
Hey, Chris, I get the genesis of your call. Your cell phone just absolutely sucks, so I got to let you run. But he thinks Mike Evans gets overglazed, he said? And
Dak.
And Dak Prescott. I think we criticize Dak more than anybody. And Mike Evans is going to be a Hall of Famer. So I disagree with him on that. But, yeah, I do agree with him on his last point that Jalen Hurts always gets disrespected. He's extremely underappreciated. But, man, that cell phone was one of the worst cell phones I've ever heard. And, I heard a little bit of it, and eventually I'm like, all right, if you're going to pretend to do a talk show with me. And I like, nothing against Chris in Alabama, but I think I could have got up, went to the bathroom, got myself a donut in the newsroom, made myself some new fresh brewed coffee, came back, and I think that Chris still would have been talking. Yeah, I really do. So when your cell phone connection is spotty or maybe shoddy at best, and then we tell you, hey, get off speakerphone, you pretend to get off speakerphone, and then I don't know what you connected to. Did he connect to his sock or something? Because I could barely hear a word what he was saying. But I did see when he was saying the word hypocrite, all I could think about was from Harold and Kumar, the hypocriticizer scene. That's all I could think about when you go back to the scene of the people imitating President George W. Bush. All righty. Anyway, let me get to this. Cam Newton. He was on First Take, which whenever Cam's on First Take, we should just call the show Hot Take. And this was on the ESPN. I'm usually a Cam defender. I never really liked when Cam was playing the narratives about him. People thought he was like me, and they thought he was like a bad guy. You know, people got on Cam for celebrating, and he would celebrate and give footballs to children. Like, you would score a touchdown, he would find a child in the stand and flip them a football. So even as a Cam defender, I want to have a measured conversation about this, because I think there's many ways you could go. But the way it came off, if he actually meant it that way, it's a dumb thing to say. But here's Cam on the ESPN.
If you could give back that league MVP for a Super Bowl championship, would you do it?
No.
Oh.
Really?
Really?
Why?
Because you have to ask it through this lens. What's more important, impact or championships? You look at a guy like Allen Iverson. Everybody's not going to be Michael Jordan. Everybody's not going to be Patrick Mahomes. Like, let me remind you, Brad Johnson won a Super Bowl. Trent Dilfer won a Super Bowl. Respectfully, Nick Foles won a Super Bowl. But if we're being honest, the impact of you holding yourself accountable to say everybody has a responsibility to do. And you can say as an MVP award winner, or you've held your end of the bargain down. And that's what it really comes down to for me.
So here's the problem. When you're Cam Newton and you've been to a Super Bowl, and in the Super Bowl, you failed to jump on a fumble, right? When you could have won that Super Bowl. If I ask Cam this directly, you know, all right, I heard what you just said, Cam. But the year you won the MVP, would you give up that MVP award that year, finish second, in order to defeat the Denver Broncos? Right, in the Super Bowl. If he still would have said yes, that's crazy to me. Because I would rather have the Super Bowl compared to the MVP. Now, I think the way that he just meant it was there's a lot of not so great quarterbacks that have won Super Bowls, but they were never close to an MVP. And I would rather be Cam Newton than Nick Foles or Brad Johnson. That part, right, if you just say it that way, I'd rather be Cam over Brad Johnson. Agreed. But before you say that, when you go impact or championships and you compare yourself to Allen Iverson, Cam, you did a lot for mobile quarterbacks. We could tell the history of the NFL without Cam Newton. We can. Cam had 3 or 4 years of really awesome football. Cam made a Super Bowl. He lost that Super Bowl. He was an MVP. It's not as if we're ever going to look at Cam and say he's one of the greatest players to ever play the game. Where if you look at Allen Iverson, right, he's an all-time great NBA player. So Cam putting himself in that Allen Iverson class, to me, is just laughable. But here's what I would also follow up with Cam. All right, you use Brad Johnson, you use Nick Foles. Hey, Cam, would you rather be Eli Manning or yourself? Would you rather have the career of Matthew Stafford or yourself? Like Eli, whether you like it or not, he's going to the Hall of Fame. Eli Manning never had an MVP quality season in the NFL. Eli, though, has won 2 Super Bowl championships, 2 Super Bowl MVPs. You can't tell the history of the NFL without Eli Manning. You can't. Even if you don't think he's a great quarterback, you can't tell the history of the NFL without Eli Manning, because he beat arguably the greatest dynasty of all time, not once but twice. And he beat that dynasty when they were going for an undefeated season. Matthew Stafford never won an MVP. I think has 2 career Pro Bowl appearances. Won a Super Bowl, though. I'd rather be Matthew Stafford than Cam. And the shame about Cam's career is it didn't last. His greatness didn't last long enough. He was a heck of a player. I'm a huge fan of Cam Newton. But the way that he remembers his career is, I think, a lot differently than the rest of us remember his career. So when you're Cam, do you think your legacy would be remembered better if you won a Super Bowl or an MVP? Well, your legacy, don't get me wrong, you're a sensational player. But no one's going to talk about you right, 40 years from now as someone they have to mention when talking about the history of the NFL. They're just not. You win a Super Bowl, that's different. Like, yeah, we may mention Brad Johnson won a Super Bowl. Like, anyone could do it. Like, it's not mentioned in a great way. But, like, Brad Johnson gets mentioned a lot because of that. So I think that the conversation is an interesting one. Would you rather be Cam, or would you rather just be a Super Bowl winning quarterback? Personally, I'd rather be a Super Bowl winning quarterback. But there's different tiers of that, of a Super Bowl winning quarterback. Because sure, if you just say Brad Johnson, I could see why people rather be Cam than Brad Johnson. I get that. But when you throw in guys that are very good, in Eli Manning and Matthew Stafford, that have never won an MVP, but Eli has 2 Super Bowls and Matt has 1, I'd rather be Matthew Stafford than Cam. I'd rather be Eli Manning than Cam. So that conversation, I think, is fascinating. But I also think it's a very bad look for Cam. And he's allowed to have his opinion. I think his opinion in the way that he said it is a little misguided because he didn't have the impact on the NFL like Allen Iverson had the impact on the NBA. And Allen Iverson was a better player for much longer than Cam was. And I'm a huge fan of Cam. But I'm just calling it as I see it. But to just go on out there when you're Cam and you're asked, would you rather win an MVP or a Super Bowl? I have a tough time believing what he's saying because what do people knock Cam for doing? Not jumping on that football in the Super Bowl. Imagine if he did and he got it and they ended up winning the game. You know, we remember champions more than we remember MVPs. And I know what you could say. Hey, Dan Marino never won a Super Bowl. And there's a lot of quarterbacks that I would not want to be compared to Dan Marino. Right? Like, I'd rather be Dan Marino than a lot of these other quarterbacks that we could mention. Dan, though, is an all-time great quarterback. Sorry, Cam. You had some 2-3 years of great moments, but you're not an all-time great quarterback. And I think history would have remembered you a lot better and would, like, down the road remember you a lot better if you won a Super Bowl rather than just an MVP. That's just me. How'd you react to that, Stu? When we got into the Cam conversation, you just heard that audio.
I kind of agree with him.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, explain why.
At least in terms of like, and I know optically, like you said, optically for him and what happened in that Super Bowl, it looks worse. But if you're just talking, if you'd rather be a quarterback that was a below average quarterback that won a Super Bowl, like you said, Brad Johnson, versus a Cam Newton, I'd rather be Cam Newton for sure.
Sure, that I agree with.
Like if it's just a blanket, it's 100% I'd rather be the MVP because you were a more impactful player and at the top of your game, even if you didn't win a Super Bowl.
So that's what I think he was trying to say. I just don't think he said it.
Yeah.
100. Like, I thought there needed to be a follow-up there. Like, okay, to what level? Because sure, if you say, would you rather be Cam Newton or would you rather be Brad Johnson? I'd rather be Cam. But if you say, would you rather be Matthew Stafford or Cam?
Matthew Stafford.
Would you rather be Eli Manning?
Eli Manning.
Right? How about you, Santa? Would you rather MVP or Super Bowl? What were your thoughts on what Cam said?
No, I agree with Cam and Stu, but I think
That's how I know I'm right.
Yeah. but you bring up an interesting comparison. Like the Eli thing, he won 2 and he won 2 Super Bowl MVPs. The Stafford one I think is really interesting. Would you rather be Stafford, a great borderline Hall of Famer with a Super Bowl and no MVPs, or Cam Newton, an MVP who lost in a Super Bowl? Like, that's tight.
I'd rather be Stafford. I would. Cam's not getting into Hall of Fame either. So even if you tell me that Stafford doesn't get into the Hall of Fame, Stafford had a longer career.
And do you think Cam has a better chance of getting into the Hall of Fame with an MVP or a Super Bowl?
Cam has no shot of getting in the Hall of Fame either way.
But so would a player,
you know what,
have a better shot of getting into the Hall of Fame with winning one Super Bowl or with an MVP?
At the quarterback position, a Super Bowl. Like, for example, Matt Ryan, you could argue, had a better career, right? He won an MVP. Matthew Stafford has not won an MVP, won a Super Bowl. More people are going to argue to put Matthew Stafford in the Hall of Fame than Matt Ryan. You know, Phillip Rivers, you could argue, had a better regular season career than Eli Manning. Phillip Rivers, I think, will get in, but he's going to have to wait. There's a chance Eli Manning gets in this year on the first ballot. I think Eli should be a Hall of Famer. Am I saying that Eli Manning needs to be a first ballot Hall of Famer? No. So, what I'm saying is just this. Cam is not wrong if it's, hey, MVP or Super Bowl, would you rather be Cam or would you rather be Brad Johnson? Yeah, I'd rather be Cam. But if I throw in other Super Bowl champions that haven't won MVPs compared to Cam, I would 1,000% rather be Eli Manning, who will end up being a Hall of Fame quarterback. He was nowhere close to being one of the greatest quarterbacks, right, that we've ever seen. No one's going to make the case that he's a top 5 quarterback of all time. He never had an MVP season, but he's won 2 Super Bowls. Matthew Stafford, same thing. Where Matthew Stafford will, in all likelihood, probably be a Hall of Famer. Matthew Stafford's only made 2 or 3 Pro Bowls. Matthew Stafford has never, ever won an MVP, but he won a Super Bowl. So if you say, would I rather be Cam or Eli? Eli. Would I rather be Cam or Matthew Stafford? Matthew Stafford. So that's the difference. Sure, Brad Johnson, Nick Foles, those guys can't hold a candle to Cam's career. But Cam wasn't great enough in the NFL. Like, he was great for a few years, but it wasn't lasting long enough where I could just say easily I'd rather be an MVP over a Super Bowl champion. Because I just gave you 2 Super Bowl champions in Stafford and Eli that were never MVPs, and I'd rather have both their careers than the career of Cam.
I'll throw one more name, because Eli has 2 Super Bowls, and Stafford was an elite-level, top all-pro style quarterback.
But never got that respect.
Correct, but I think all the coaches and people around the league understood it.
Yeah.
Maybe the media, maybe us on the outside didn't fully recognize it. Here's a name that I think is maybe closer to that Cam conversation, Joe Flacco. He's got the Super Bowl, but was never considered a great regular season quarterback.
What? I'd rather be Joe Flacco.
See, I would rather be Cam than Joe Flacco.
Joe Flacco also, though, won a Super Bowl MVP. That to me is important.
Yeah.
I would rather have the career. I'm not saying that.
And a Comeback Player of the Year award also. I mean, that's most important, let's be honest.
But you could thank this show. But I'm not saying that Cam wasn't the better pound-for-pound player. Like, in a 3-year stretch, Cam is obviously a better pound-for-pound player in a 3-year stretch than anything Joe Flacco did in a 3-year stretch. People remember more of Joe Flacco in NFL history, I think, than Cam, even though Cam was the better player because of that Super Bowl. All right, we'll take a timeout. This is Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. 2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back to the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
Alrighty, let's do this right now as we get you set for the Super Bowl next week. Let's do a little draft here. 15 impact names for the Super Bowl. So we'll all get 5 picks each when you examine the rosters for the Kansas City Chiefs and also the Philadelphia Eagles. I will start off, and I'm taking Patrick Mahomes. You know, even if the Chiefs don't win, I would have a hard time believing that 2 Super Bowls with the Chiefs and the Eagles, if Hurts was the best player in the first one, how Mahomes won't have an opportunity to be the best player and the most impactful player in this one. So I'm taking Patty Mahomes. Samter, you're up next.
All right, good. I'm glad I got the second pick because clearly Saquon Barkley is going to go number 2 overall to Mr. Samter here.
You know that I read that the Chiefs haven't allowed like a 100-yard rusher? I forget exactly how many years, but it was an insane amount of time. I think it was like going back to like 3 years or something. Something along the lines of that for the last 100-yard rusher for the Kansas City Chiefs. I forget exactly. It was in the postseason, maybe. I forget what the stat was, but it was absurd, and that's going to be a big storyline heading into that one. All righty, Steve, you get 2 picks. Go ahead.
All right, my first pick will be Jalen Hurts. I think he has the potential for a big game, obviously, to make a lot of impact at the quarterback position and with his legs. And then with my second pick, I will go with Chris Jones. I think the game can be won defensively, and I think of both teams, he's the best defensive player on the field.
You took Chris Jones. That's an excellent one. And you could argue, right, in a lot of these Super Bowls, Chris Jones has made some of the most clutch plays. Here's the stat, Underdog Fantasy. The Chiefs haven't allowed a 100-yard rusher in their last 18 playoff games, obviously. That'll go back to regular season. That would be crazy. Their last 18 playoff games. So that's going to be a fun storyline going into this one. All righty, Sam, their next pick already off the board. Patrick Mahomes, Saquon Barkley, Manny's favorite player. Jalen Hurts, and Chris Jones. Go ahead.
So far, we're
Samson.
going in order of my big board. I'm going to go with the best defensive player on the Eagles. That's who Aaron Donald called his replacement, Jalen Carter, who's been wrecking bleep up.
All right. I am going to go a little untraditional here. I don't know if you guys thought it this way, and I wanted to see if anyone was going to pick up on this, and so far, it hasn't been the case. The way I worded this, 15 impactful names for the Super Bowl. I'm going to take a coach, and it's not Andy Reid, and it's not Nick Sirianni. I think the most impactful coach in this game is Steve Spagnuolo, who is the best big game defensive coordinator that we've ever seen. 4 Super Bowl championships, could get a 5th after 2 Sundays from now. And we all know Andy Reid's a better pound-for-pound coach. But I think the Eagles are the better team. And like I said, if you take a glance at this Eagles offense, even if the Chiefs do their formula of not allowing a 100-yard rusher for the last 18 playoff games, so that's a 19th playoff game, you still have to slow down A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, and Jalen Hurts. So I'm going to go with Spags. I did think that either Jalen Carter or Chris Jones would be there. But I was wrong on that one. My next pick. I don't think he's going to be there the next go-around. I don't. But I'm not going to pick him. Planet players make planet plays. Travis Kelce. He's getting in the end zone in this one. Travis Kelce shows up when it matters the most. I am going with Travis Kelce. So far, Travis Kelce off the board. Steve Spagnuolo off the board. Patrick Mahomes off the board. Samter has Saquon Barkley and Jalen Carter. Stu has Jalen Hurts and Chris Jones. Samter?
I mean, this hurts me as a huge, diehard, longtime Chiefs fan. I'm 2 for 2 on Eagles. I'm going to have to go 3 for 3 on the Eagles. A.J. Brown. Now, I like your idea of going off of the player route with Spags, so I did consider something else, but A.J. Brown will be my next pick here.
Okay, Stuart, what do we got?
All right, I will go with someone that is going to have to devise a game plan to stop the Chiefs and stop Patrick Mahomes, and that, of course, is Vic Fangio, your favorite elevator buddy.
Isn't that crazy? We've done 2 coaches. Neither are the head coaches. Spags and Vic Fangio. All righty? Do you get another pick here, right? I think you do.
I do. I will go. So I will stick on the defensive side of the ball. I will go to the Chiefs here, and I think George Karlaftis is someone who can make an impact on the defensive side of the ball.
You know, I'm really annoyed with that one. I could say that on the radio, I'm pretty sure. Did I have to get dumped there? I think I'm good there. That was the guy that I said, I don't think he'll be there, so I understood that he was up for the taking. And once I heard Stu say a coach, I forgot Stu had another pick, so I'm like, all right, then we're going to put the pressure on Samter to take a coach, and I'm going to get Karlaftis, and I didn't get Karlaftis. That annoys me. That annoys me. As Emmitt Smith would say, makes me hot.
I will say, Karlaftis had 3 sacks in that first game, but he only had 8 for the whole year. I know he can wreck stuff up, but
Impact player.
Sure. There's some other defensive players who I think will make more of an impact in this game. But I do have
Super
to go.
Bowl MVP Karlaftis right there. Get the bet going.
And we have the Hickey curse, and the Samter sucks. I don't know what we're going to call it.
just get
I'm going to take my first Chief player, and I'm going to go on the offensive side of the ball. Xavier Worthy, who's been an absolute monster. I think that he's going to need to have a big game for Mahomes.
All righty. So. All righty. I'm going with the Chiefs defensive player. And the Chiefs defensive player that I'm going to take here is going to be Trent McDuffie. When we want to talk about underrated players, I still feel like Trent McDuffie doesn't get the pop that he should for the career that he's had nationally. So I will take Trent McDuffie. Now, I'm looking at this. I could go with Big Red, Andy Reid. I could go with Lane Johnson, Zach Bowen, but I'm going a little surprise here. Dallas Goedert's been really damn good for the Birds in the playoffs. And I already bet his anytime touchdown. I made a few Super Bowl bets the last night. Got my early Super Bowl plays in. And last week I was very confident on Matt Collins at plus 600. I ended up, now they want to tell me to update my app as I'm trying to go to it on the air. And that's always the worst. When you're trying to go to something like, oh, you got to update this to access the app. So give me about 20 seconds and I'll give you all my Super Bowl bets right now.
Now, did you do like all over/under lines, or did you do a lot of props?
I think I just took 2 anytime touchdown bets. It's not like I was sitting there and
Are you a
making
prop guy? Do you enjoy the prop bet?
Like what? The Gatorade color?
Gatorade color. How many times will Taylor Swift be shown on the screen? What color will her lipstick be?
Gatorade, I'm good, and national anthem time I think is the most electric bet that you can make. Oh, I only made 2 bets in the Super Bowl so far. Travis Kelce, anytime touchdown, plus 125. Dallas Goedert, anytime touchdown, plus 330. So I'm taking Dallas Goedert.
All right, good. That leaves me with, I think, the second best defensive player in this contest. That's Nolan Smith for the Eagles.
It's a great one.
The dude has 4 sacks in his last 4 games. He's an absolute monster. I think Nolan Smith, if you just look down the line of like his tackles, his sacks, passes defended, tackles for loss, Nolan Smith has been absolutely monstrous this postseason.
Now, Stu, can you refresh my memory here?
Sure.
Samter just basically trashed George Karlaftis because he only had 8 sacks in the regular season.
Yeah.
Hey, Mike, how many sacks did Nolan Smith Jr. have in the regular season?
6.5, but that's not his thing. He's not just like a sack guy. He is an all-around kind of player. Karlaftis' job is to get to the quarterback. So a guy who's a pass rush specialist needs more than 8 sacks.
That's Nolan Smith's job as well.
Nolan Smith can impact the game in so many different ways besides just getting to the quarterback.
Just take your L. Just take your L. Just take your L.
You know me long enough. I don't take L's.
Yes, we know. But we're working on accountability with Mike, all right? That's his New Year's resolution for 2025. All righty, Stu, last one. Take us home.
All right, I won't overthink this. I'll just go Andy Reid.
Right.
He's
value
Andy
pick.
Reid. Yeah.
Value pick. So the 5 impactful people. Patrick Mahomes for me, Spags, Kelce, Trent McDuffie, and Dallas Goedert, Samter, Saquon Barkley, Jalen Carter, A.J. Brown, Xavier Worthy, Nolan Smith. Stu, Jalen Hurts, Chris Jones, Vic Fangio, George Karlaftis, and Andy Reid. Man. Stu, I think you may have won this draft. Potentially. We'll see what we're talking about the most on that Monday, though, after the Super Bowl to really see who won this.
Couple interesting names that didn't get picked.
Yeah.
Devontae Smith, Kareem Hunt, Quinyon Mitchell, DeAndre Hopkins.
I thought about Devontae Smith because, all right, if you bottle up A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith's going to get his.
And Pacheco's been doing nothing, so Kareem Hunt's been the guy on that side. You've got all those young cornerbacks there on Philly.
So let's take a break here. Cooper DeJean as well. Don't forget about him. We'll take a timeout. When we come on back, we got to get to this disturbing story involving Justin Tucker. We'll do that on the other side. Update time first. Here is Manny Rodriguez.
Infinity Sports Network. Sports Flash.
All right, Zach. 14 members of the figure skating community are among the 67 who are presumed dead after last night's midair collision over the Potomac River in Washington, D.C. The group was returning from the U.S. Figure Skating Championships in Wichita over the weekend. To the NFL, Ravens kicker Justin Tucker has been accused by 6 massage therapists of inappropriate sexual behavior, according to the Baltimore Banner. Tucker is alleged to expose himself and brush his genitals on 2 therapists, among other things. Tucker described the allegations as unequivocally false. The NFL and the Ravens declined to comment. Elsewhere, the Eagles have opened up the practice window for defensive end Brandon Graham. He suffered a torn triceps in late November. Patrick Graham, he is back in Las Vegas. The defensive coordinator has re-signed with the Raiders after interviewing for the open head coaching gig and defensive coordinator down in Jacksonville. NBA, the Heat, then their guard, Terry Rozier, they're at the center of a federal investigation involving unusual betting activities in a game in 2023 when Rozier was a member of the Hornets. The league conducted its own investigation and found no wrongdoing, but are cooperating with the feds. And at the Pebble Beach Pro-Am, Jake Knapp, Cam Davis, and Russell Henley are all at the top, 7 under. I'm Manny Rodriguez.
The Infinity Sports Network is on your smart speaker. All you have to say is, play Infinity Sports Network.
You're in a 5-minute break. 4 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back to the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
Alrighty, this portion of the show is brought to you by Ethos Life, the easy way to get life insurance in 10 minutes, up to $2 million in coverage with no medical exam. Just a few health questions. Get your free quote at checkethos.com. Not available in all states. There's a huge story right now brewing in the NFL. Ravens kicker Justin Tucker. So this was the way that I saw it reported at first. Ravens kicker Justin Tucker has been accused of inappropriate sexual behavior by 6 massage therapists, according to the Baltimore Banner. Now, I read the article. It is a lengthy article. The accusations made in the article are horrifying. If this is true, right, Justin Tucker is a terrible human being. If these accusations are true. Now, there are two sides to every story. Sometimes when you have things like this, right, we'll say, well, if it isn't true, wouldn't you deny it right away? Justin Tucker has gave an immediate denial, and there was a lengthy statement posted on his social medias. When I first read this, right, because a lot of times now people don't read the actual articles, they just read the headlines. And I said, wow, Justin Tucker has been accused of inappropriate sexual behavior by 6 massage therapists. I'm thinking about that all this happened within the last few months, right? That's where immediate thought went to. In the article, it explains, not that it really changes anything, because the accusations are the accusations. Once again, if what is accused of Justin Tucker is true, it's absolutely deplorable behavior. But these 6 massage therapists that are accusing Justin Tucker are from 2012 to 2016. Now, I think people will go about that one or two ways. Some people will say, well, why did it take this long to come out? And then also, if you have victims here, you don't know how you would handle that. You don't know when you would want to speak up about this. And if maybe you needed other people that you heard this happen to also speak up against this as well. So I think a lot of people, right, from a sports standpoint, our listeners, they'll hear this story, and whether you think this is right or wrong in terms of what I'm about to say next, I do believe most people are going to say, what does this mean for the career of Justin Tucker? Right? That's what I think a lot of people are going to say. And I've said this before when it comes to athletes. And, right, you're allowed due process. Right? You're innocent until proven guilty in the court of public opinion. That's different. Right? I think in the court of public opinion, you're more guilty than, and you have to prove yourself to be innocent. But when it comes to this lawsuit, or, these allegations that are out there, I wonder what the Ravens' response is going to be. Because if you break down what the response is going to be on the football future of Justin Tucker, the league is going to do their own investigation. The league, I would imagine, is going to eventually suspend him in some capacity if anything is true. If anything is true, even if it's not true, the league still has the power to suspend him. But I'm fascinated by what the Ravens' response is. And do I think that the Ravens are going to release him in the next 24 to 48 hours? No, I do not. Now, the Ravens could say, okay, didn't have a great year this year. Maybe starting to decline. Now there's controversy with him. Let's just get rid of him. Because if you're someone that thinks to yourself, hey, it doesn't matter if the player's any good or not, then you're falsely mistaken. In the NFL, they will turn the eye the other way. They will not hold you accountable if they think that you could help the team win. The Ravens didn't get rid of Justin Tucker when he was playing poorly on the field this year. Now, I don't know what they knew or what they didn't know. Did this stuff, was this brewing and brewing and brewing? And maybe, right, Tucker had to deal with this all throughout the season. And I doubt that he's running and telling the Ravens about this. So the Ravens, if they get rid of him, they may just be annoyed that they weren't in the loop here, if they weren't in the loop. So my gut tells me on this one that the Ravens are not going to get rid of him right now. But if the league eventually suspends him, maybe they do end up getting rid of Justin Tucker. But I've said this before, if you're an NFL player and you're not in a jail cell and there's a team that thinks they can help you to win, you go help them win, they'll take the chance. They'll take the negative PR hit. They will. And if you don't believe me, look at the Browns with Deshaun Watson. So this is going to be fascinating because whether this is true or not, you read this article and then you know what Deshaun Watson did as well. Well, the NFL suspended Deshaun Watson for 10 games. And Deshaun Watson, right, could still continue his career now. So I'm curious if this is true, how many games the league is going to suspend him, and if there's immediate response by the Ravens where they just say, all right, we're cutting ties with Justin Tucker. But I'm curious where in the national landscape where this story is going to go, because the details are pretty graphic. Now, just because one side said something doesn't mean it happened. Doesn't mean it didn't happen, right? Like, could Justin Tucker have done this? Yes. Could he not have done it? Yeah. But I'm curious what the response is going to be. And we had someone in the YouTube chat that I want to give them credit. Michael Barnstein, who he said, imagine if the Ravens actually made the Super Bowl. Imagine the Ravens beat the Bills, then went to Kansas City, beat the Chiefs, and the entire media world is getting ready to go to New Orleans, and this story comes out. Could you imagine? Like, the Ravens aren't playing right now, so they're out of the news. Justin Tucker put himself in the news today, but I'm curious by what the reaction is nationally to this. Because if it's a quarterback, right, I think everyone's talking about it. A kicker, I'm curious how many people are going to talk about this. I am. And also, I'm fascinated about the league and the NFL's response. By the NFL, I mean the Ravens' response is going to be. But the allegations and what is said in the lawsuit are deplorable. They're disgusting. They're sickening. Doesn't mean that they're true. But if they are, Justin Tucker, he'd go kick rocks, right? And that's me saying it as nice as possible. So that's what's out there with Justin Tucker right now. And the 6 massage therapists go back to encounters from 2012 to 2016. But we have seen before, right? Allegations be made and then them turn out not to be true. Like, remember the Bills kicker with what happened, the Bills punter, Matt Araiza, with what happened? And look at the way what turned out with that story. So I'm just curious what the reaction's going to be. Because, yes, in this country, you are innocent until proven guilty, but sometimes you're guilty until you're proven innocent. And I'll be curious what the reaction is on this, but you go read the article in the banner. Zach Gelb here with you on the Infinity Sports Network.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 3 minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
To infinity and beyond. He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
All righty, hour number 3 of our radio program. Zach Gelb here with you on the Infinity Sports Network. Coming up 20 minutes from now, Merril Hoge will join us. So I'm thinking about the NFL draft right now. And I know you have the Senior Bowl ongoing in Mobile, Alabama. But when you take a look at the NFL draft, I think the top of the draft is now fascinating, the first 2 picks. Because before we saw the Final Four of the college football playoff, I think most people said, hey, you're going to have quarterbacks go 1-2 in the draft. Like, Shedeur Sanders, Cam Ward will probably go 1-2, either Cam 1, Shedeur 2, or whatever. So that's what I felt as if the sentiment was. And I know that the draft order then was finalized it was before, because the second round games were New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. And then once you saw the Final Four, where Abdul Carter, right, had such a good performance in the first matchup or the second round matchup against Boise. You know, he got hurt. It was that third matchup where he had a big performance where people are like, oh, yo, this is a generational talent. Now, I was sitting there going into the semifinals, and I go, hell, well, if quarterbacks go 1-2, and then even if it's not 1-2, it'll be 1-3, and then Travis Hunter will be sandwiched in the middle. Or Travis Hunter, if it's quarterbacks 1-2, will then be 3. So I've already locked up in my mind that we were going to see my Patriots get Abdul Carter. And even though the Patriots need a wide receiver, they need an offensive lineman, I've thought the world of Abdul Carter, and I've already set my mind out that the Patriots are going to get him. Now I sit here 2 minutes after 5 o'clock on January 30th, and I don't have a damn clue if the Patriots are going to get Abdul Carter. Because the president over at Tennessee, he was the one that said, hey, we're not going to pass up on generational talents. And that, to me, could be interpreted in many ways. Like, what's your motive there? You're trying to maybe have a team come up and give you a king's ransom for the pick. Do you view either Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward as a generational quarterback? I don't. Or does that mean that Tennessee is going to take either Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter? And in a few mock drafts, I'm now seeing Abdul Carter be the number one player in the draft. So Tennessee needs a quarterback and Cleveland needs a quarterback. I got to think one of those teams ends up taking a quarterback. And imagine if you're a Giant fan at 3, right? You want a quarterback. I think you either want Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders. Could you imagine if the first pick of the draft, you know, Goodell walks out there and goes, with the first pick of the 2025 NFL draft, the Tennessee Titans take Abdul Carter, edge rusher, Penn State. If you're a Giant fan there, you're thinking to yourself, oh, that's wonderful, right? You're going to get your pick of quarterbacks. And then, if you imagine, right, he goes, Cleveland's second pick, it's Travis Hunter, Colorado. If you're a Giant fan, you're thrilled there. You're jumping up and down like a fat kid in a candy store. Because then you get either Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward. But what happens if this is all smokescreen? Because that's the difficult part if you're a Giant fan, where a month ago, if you told me, right, Tennessee and Cleveland had the first 2 picks, everyone would be like, Tennessee's taking Cam and Cleveland's taking Shedeur or vice versa. And then the Giants would be like, all right, yeah, you would take Travis Hunter. Or maybe then you would take Abdul Carter. But the Giants, they have some good defensive linemen. You know, you got Brian Burns, who you traded King's ransom and then paid. You got this sexy Dexter Lawrence in the middle of that defensive line. You're probably not going to give a second contract to Kayvon Thibodeau. He's just been too inconsistent. You know, Kayvon Thibodeau's getting into it with Des Bryant I saw last weekend. They were going back and forth on social media because the Giants are taking a beating for not re-signing Saquon. And Des Bryant, something along the likes of, Saquon's the only player that, like, the Giants needed to keep. Which, that I didn't necessarily agree with. Like, Dexter Lawrence is a ferocious defensive lineman. So you at least got to throw him into that conversation. But if I'm a Giant fan, my emotions, I think, are getting played with now. Because I went into this, right, if you're a Giant fan, when the season wrapped up that last weekend of the year where you're the third pick, you're probably not going to get Shedeur or Cam. Now it seems like the door's open for you to get one of these guys without having to trade up. Now, Stu, here's the other part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Do your Raiders sit there and go, we probably can't wait? Like, I still see some mock drafts having the Raiders take Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward at 6. I still have a tough time believing, even though I don't think either player in Shedeur or Cam, I can name 6 players better in this draft than them. I have a tough time thinking that the Raiders are going to be able to get there without having to move up to get Shedeur or Cam at 6. But if it goes the way that now some people are saying it could go, where let's say Abdul Carter's 1, Travis Hunter's 2, let me just throw Shedeur in there at 3, Patriots then, you know, like they take an offensive lineman, Jaguars aren't taking a quarterback, then you could get a quarterback in at 6. But I'm still not believing the smoke here that both Tennessee and Cleveland are passing up on a quarterback. I think one could. And if I look at who's more likely, I think that's a fascinating question. Because Tennessee, you have your coach that's there for his second year, but you just brought in a new general manager. So does the GM feel pressed to take a quarterback now? Now, you could say, wait until next year. We'll get our quarterback in next year's draft. You're not guaranteed to be the number 1 overall pick in next year's draft. I think it's still more likely that Cleveland is the one that passes on the quarterback. Because I could see Cleveland saying, we still have a good roster. We'll go elsewhere to get that quarterback. And maybe they tip their hand before the draft even happens. Because if Cleveland goes sign Sam Darnold, or if they get Russell Wilson or Kirk Cousins, let's say, on a cheap contract, I don't think they're taking they still could take a quarterback because you bring in Sam, I think he's your guy in terms of the contract. But if you're signing Kirk or if you're signing Russell Wilson, that's a stopgap year. So you could still take a quarterback, have him sit behind those guys, even though for Kirk, that'd be 2 years in a row. You go somewhere and then they go draft someone. But then maybe Cleveland says, okay, we could trade out of that pick if they didn't want to take Travis Hunter, or they could take Travis Hunter. So I think that's tricky. I think that's really tricky. But if you're Tennessee, you have the number 1 overall pick. You need a quarterback. I know your team has other holes. I think that they're going to end up taking a quarterback. Where are you at on that? Because my emotions are getting toyed with it. As a Patriot fan sitting at 4 that wants either Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter Jr. You could tell me that the offensive linemen, the other wide receivers in this draft, I want one of those two guys. I want either Abdul Carter or I want Travis Hunter, preferably Abdul 1, Travis 2. But Stu, in your mind, trying to project this on how the Raiders could get a quarterback, do you see none of Tennessee or Cleveland passing up on a quarterback, one passing up on a quarterback, or both passing up on a quarterback?
I think one. I think I could see one, but then it gets to the point where the Giants are going to take the other one at 3.
So that's where it eliminates you guys still.
Yeah, I think so.
So if this goes the way that I think it goes, Tennessee takes a quarterback 1. Then Cleveland becomes in a fascinating situation. Because if let's say they take Travis Hunter 1, well, you could take Abdul Carter. Now people are going to say, but they have Myles Garrett. Well, maybe they end up trading Myles Garrett and they keep Abdul Carter and you get the best of both worlds. You get a new pass rusher and you could still get a king's ransom for Myles Garrett. Or they could say, we'll pass on taking a player there and we'll just trade the pick and we'll stockpile picks. Because you could then make a team like the Raiders or, I don't know what the Saints want to do at 9. Maybe they then say, okay, we got to get past the Giants. Because if one quarterback goes to start the draft, and then if Stu's right, the second quarterback doesn't go at 2, the Giants are going to take that quarterback at 3. I think Joe Shane or Brian Daboll have to take a quarterback.
And the Giants would be in that bidding war as well, because I'm sure Cleveland would then be like, hey, do you want to move up one spot? It's going to cost you, though, but...
Yeah, because you could use the other teams. Oh, the Raiders are offering me an extra first-round pick, even though it's only moving up one spot, and you're falling back to 3. You could then use that, I still need a first-round pick, where it may cost more for the Raiders to move up, but then also that's really how the Browns get the best of both worlds. You get a future first-round pick from the Giants. The Browns fall down one spot. You know the Giants are taking a quarterback. You're there at 3, and you still get either Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter. I swear, though, if the Patriots don't wind up with Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter, and I guess it's a possibility, I'm going to be upset. And I'm hoping 2 quarterbacks go in the top 3, and I'm hoping whoever doesn't take the quarterback ends up taking Travis Hunter. Because I think Abdul Carter is the best player in this draft. I do. And you know what? It's crazy because the quarterback's the most impactful position. It's the most imperative position. But I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 players in the draft that I think are better players just for starters than any of these quarterbacks. Like, it's not me dumping on Shador or Cam. I think Shador or Cam are both really good quarterbacks that both did more with less this year. However, do I look at Shador as if he's going to be a top 5 quarterback in this league? I do not. Do I look at Cam Ward and do I think he's going to be a top 5 quarterback in this league? I do not. And that 5th spot's up for grabs. Without question, Mahomes is the best quarterback in the league. I would then say Josh Allen is the second best quarterback in the league. I would then say Joe Burrow is the third quarterback in the league, third best, and then Lamar is fourth. But if you want to tell me Lamar's second, I can't really argue it. If you want to tell me Joe Burrow's second, I can't really argue it. Those would be my personal rankings. 1 would be Mahomes, 2 would be Josh, 3 would be Burrow, 4 would be Allen. But outside of Mahomes, those other 3, you could order them 2, 3, 4, whatever way you want. That 5th spot's up for grabs, though. And do I think that Shedeur or Cam are ever going to be the 5th best quarterback in football? I do not. Not for at least the next 5-10 years. So, we've also seen, right, C.J. Stroud and Jaden Daniels quickly come into the league and have success. So I know sometimes people say, oh, have a quarterback sit a few years, and right, there's arguments to be made for that. Those 2 quarterbacks came in. C.J. Stroud played, won a playoff game. Jaden Daniels came in, was awesome, and made a conference championship game in his first season. But I really do believe I can name 7 players in this draft that I think will, if you're just going pound for pound, not where they're going to go in the draft, because I get the importance of moving up the quarterbacks. I think Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter, Mason Graham, Tyler Warren, Will Campbell, Will Johnson, and Ashton Genty. Those 7 players, I think, are just better than Shedeur or Cam, but easily. I have a tough time seeing Shedeur and Cam still not being the first 2 of the first 3 picks in this draft. Because to Stu's point, if Tennessee or the Browns want to go for the better pound-for-pound player in Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter, all right, one of those teams I think could pass up on not taking a quarterback. But both of them doing so, I have a tough time seeing that. And then you could have, for example, the Giants then gobble up whoever's left at the quarterback position. But with that being said, just because I love these mock drafts, and I think Ryan Wilson and Chris Trapasso do a great job. Right now, Ryan Wilson, and let's see what ends up. I'm laughing at something. I'll tell you why in a second. Let's see what ends up after the Senior Bowl. Because you know what the Senior Bowl is? Yes, it's to highlight the seniors in college football. It's also a place for a lot of league personnel to be. And let's see what the messages that come out of the Senior Bowl and how it dictates on the mock drafts. But Ryan Wilson gave his latest mock draft on January 28th. He had Cam Ward going 1, Shedeur Sanders still going 2, Travis Hunter 3, Kelvin Banks of Texas, the offensive lineman, at 4. Wow. Mason Graham 5, Will Johnson 6 to the Raiders, McMillan, the wide receiver out of Arizona, 7 to the Jets, Abdul Carter 8 to the Panthers. So I'm fascinated why I think Abdul Carter is the best pound-for-pound player in this draft. Ryan Wilson is having going to 8th overall pick. Now, with that being said, a lot of people loved Micah Parsons coming out of college. And Micah Parsons, I think, was the 6th overall pick in the draft. And that was an edge rusher that fell? Yeah, he was. Oh, no, he was the 12th pick in the draft, Micah Parsons. Huh. So Abdul Carter, in like Ryan Wilson's exercise, would be the Micah Parsons of that draft class. Here was that draft. Trevor Lawrence 1, Zach Wilson 2, Trey Lance 3, Kyle Pitts 4, Jamar Chase 5. You know, Jamar Chase, I have a player. Jalen Waddle 6, Penei Sewell 7, J.C. Horn 8, Pat Surtain 9, Devontae Smith 10, Justin Fields 11, Micah Parsons 12. Like, if you just had to go through it, I know that Trevor Lawrence hasn't been as great as what people thought he was. I don't think the Jaguars are regretting not taking Trevor Lawrence, not taking Micah Parsons over Trevor Lawrence, even though Micah Parsons is so much of a better player than Trevor Lawrence is. Remember the next year, what I think they regret more, instead of taking Trayvon Walker, they should have selected Aiden Hutchinson. The Jets, they have to regret right now, all these years later, taking Zach Wilson. The Niners have to regret because they traded up, taking Trey Lance. If you're the Falcons, you'd rather have Micah Parsons. The Bengals, I think you'd rather have Jamar Chase. The Dolphins, I don't think you could crush them for getting Jaden Waddle. The Lions, you can't crush them for taking Penei Sewell. He's one of the best tackles in football. Unfortunately, J.C. Horn's a good player. He's never healthy. So I think that the Panthers would rather have Micah Parsons. Pat Surtain, one of the best, if not the best defensive player in the league. You could argue right now he could win Defensive Player of the Year. I don't think the Broncos regret taking Pat Surtain. The Eagles, yeah, I think you'd rather have Micah Parsons, but I don't think you regret taking Devontae Smith. He's been sensational for your team. And the Bears definitely regret taking Justin Fields. It didn't work out. So I know it's easier to do that now looking back at it, but wow, Micah Parsons, I forgot that he fell to 12. So that was Ryan Wilson's mock. Now here's Trapasso's mock. Abdul Carter, 1, Tennessee Titans. 2, still trade up, Raiders to 2, Shedeur Sanders goes to. So in that exercise, Tennessee and Cleveland both be passing up on a quarterback. Cam Ward, 3 to the Giants. Will Campbell, tackle out of LSU to the Patriots. Will Johnson, Michigan corner to Jacksonville. And then Travis Hunter going to the Browns in at 6. Yeah, I'd be disappointed if my Patriots are sitting there at 4 with either Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter on the board. And I get why they could take an offensive lineman, right? Like, go then get the offensive line in free agency. Go get Slater, go get the Ravens, right? Just go do that and get their Slater. I'm thinking of Rashawn Slater of the Chargers. Stanley, yeah, thank you. I always mess him up. I always want to call him Staley instead of Stanley. I don't know why when we're talking about Ronnie. Like, go get. Yeah, I get it. If you could have an offensive line for the next 10 years, you take him at the 4th overall pick. But I'm already falling in love with either Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter Jr. So it's going to be fascinating to see how this plays on out. All righty, Merril Hoge will join us on the other side. It is the Zach Gelb Show right here on the Infinity Sports Network.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Alrighty, rocking and rolling. It is the Zach Gelb Show, coast to coast on the Infinity Sports Network. There are great guest setups, and then there's whatever Merril Hoge has cooking right now. This is unbelievable. If you're watching us live on YouTube, where you could always stream us and as well as listen to us on SiriusXM channel 375, the free Odyssey app, and on one of your great local Infinity Sports Network affiliates. Merril, you got a lot going on in a good way. Tell us what you got cooking today. Appreciate you doing this.
Zach, my pleasure, big dog. I'll get right to it, okay? There's a bunch of things we got, but it all starts with what are you going to watch it on? And that's the LG OLED Evo G4. That bad boy brings the Super Bowl right in the living room. 8.3 million self-lit pixels, luminous color, powered by Brightness Boost Max technology, available in a 55-inch and a 97-inch. That one right there is a 65-inch. That gives you a visual. The Dolby Atmos sound is incredible. So that gives you a big game experience on Sunday. And then the ultimate snack package option, Farm Rich. #1 best-selling mozzarella stick, jalapeno pepper, spinach, artichoke dip bites, and more. Football fans can visit farmrich.com to score deals on frozen snacks, all of these and more. And if either team has a pick six, Farm Rich fans will have a chance to win their own pick six box with 6 free product coupons and limited edition merchandise. They can visit at Farm Rich Snacks for details. And then everybody has to have some drink. So this right here, Pinter, is innovative and brand new and brews and draft machine. It's the first in the world to craft 12 pints of freshly made beer or cider at home in 7 days. You mix the ingredients right here with the water, leave it to brew, refrigerate it, and enjoy. Only $49 at pinter.com/game. And you get 2 free Pinter packs and a free tasting glass and free shipping when you subscribe. So do that today. And then lastly, the Cricket Joy Extra. Okay, it made this shirt. I could leave it at that, but it makes 50 plus materials. It deals with vinyl, cardstock, iron-ons, and it's only 12 inches. This is how big it is, so it's very compact and go with you. You can take it to a party if you need to, but the Cricket Joy Extra prepares the game, crafting, customizing, team logos, team names, these koozies, all the banners. You do all this, you are the MVP of the game. People will be coming to you every year for the big game if you do all 4 together, brother.
Wow, what an elite setup. That is championship quality. Let me talk to you about your Steelers, though, Merril Hoge. We know they haven't won a playoff game since the 2016 season. Where are you at with the Steelers right now and your confidence level that Mike Tomlin's still the right guy to lead this organization?
Well, I don't even start with Mike. I'd start with like the Rooneys. They've always been consistent with their evaluations of everybody. What I like about the Rooneys is they don't react, they respond. And they look at coaching. Mike could obviously be one of those, assistant coaches, players, and the entire organization. And where is it wrong? Where does it need to get better? And once they've made that evaluation, they press forward. One thing I've learned about them with having 3 coaches in nearly 60 years is they're not irrational, and they believe they have the right guy and the right people. Sometimes they have tough times and they need to grow through those and learn. And I believe that they're in that scenario right now. And even just on an outside looking in, if it was just Mike Tomlin, they'd get rid of Mike Tomlin. It's not. Mike Tomlin is still a guy who, even though he's whatever year he's in, 15 or 16, whatever it is, that doesn't mean he doesn't grow and evolve. He can still grow and evolve, and I think he does. And I think they had some new coaches come in that, you need a couple of years to develop that and work with people to get better. Players can get better. So it's not just one area. I think they looked at the entire team, felt that it's fixable, and people that or where the things went wrong can get better for next year. And I think that's the way they're choosing to build.
And let's also be real. They need a quarterback. I think that they'll bring back either Russell Wilson or Justin Fields. I don't think either the long-term answer. But if that's the option that you got to choose between one, Russ or Justin, which one would you choose between?
Well, I don't think that's a bigger mistake just to narrow the scope like that. I think you have to widen the scope, and look for players that, have some experience that might be available within the league. And then from a draft perspective, I think you encompass all of those options. You don't just go with one guy and put all your eggs in one of those 2 guys. I just think there's so many different other options that you need to look at first and foremost before you make a decision. And I think there's a way to have a lot of options going into training camp versus just that one.
With like a Sam Darnold, or if Aaron Rodgers become available, would that be of interest?
Yeah. Well, I just think you have to look at those things. I'm not saying that they would take them into like Sam Darnold, probably more interesting than Aaron Rodgers, if they're moving. But that's an example. I think that's why you got to widen your scope and not narrow it, into the options that you can present for the year, for next year.
And I would assume you think that Sam's a little bit more interesting just because he's younger and Aaron maybe has like a year left in the league. Is that what it is?
Yeah, because you're not trying to get a 1 year. You're trying to build, and so draft is an option too, So, but yeah, Sam Darnold. I'm not saying they're looking at him. I'm just saying you got to look at all the options. You can't just go, let's keep it here. You got to widen your scope in this one.
Merril Hoge here with us. So I know that you were talking about Caleb Williams last time we discussed him, and we expanded on those, that he isn't special comments that you made. They've obviously had a tough year this past year in Chicago. Now they're bringing in the innovative offensive mind of a Ben Johnson coming over from the Lions. What do you think Ben Johnson will do for the career of Caleb Williams?
Well, I think he'll help him. He'll help him, and Caleb really, what I said about Caleb is that this is what happened. He had so many things that he's flawed at from a college perspective. He wasn't going to a playoff team. He wasn't going to sit for a year. He wasn't going to have a mentor to teach him. He wasn't having the greatest coaching in NFL history. And he wasn't 6'3" like Patrick Mahomes. There's all these things he wasn't Patrick Mahomes. That doesn't mean he can't be a really good player, because he has some good skill sets. He's just got to develop from the pocket. He tried that. He got better at it. There's a big learning curve with that. And I think that Ben Johnson, because of his experience and stuff he can do with the quarterback and how he can help an offense and help a quarterback, I think the future's bright, going forward for him.
Jaden Daniels had such an incredible year. So right now, he's the lead dog of that draft class at the quarterback position. After that, would you say Caleb's 2, or would you, maybe go with a Bo Nix or a Drake May? I know we didn't get to see Michael Penix Jr. all that much, and then J.J. McCarthy was out for the year. So would you put Caleb in that 2 spot or someone else?
Well, listen, Bo Nix played pretty as efficient as you can play. Here's what Bo Nix does a really good job of. He executes plays, and that's what you got. Greatest player in NFL history is Tom Brady, executed plays. You've got to execute plays. You got to complete balls. And he did that. He did that as good as anybody in football. Caleb is going to have to get a lot better from the pocket perspective and have a better pocket feel and greater anticipation and feel for the game. And those are kind of all big asks. It doesn't mean it can't happen. He got a little better there. And so it's hard to put number 2, right? I mean, who played the best is really Bo Nix. I mean, that's who you put at number 2 right now and how he played. And I wouldn't expect him to get any worse. I expect Bo Nix to get better. But Caleb Williams has definitely a skill set that developed right and the right around time and the right coach, which I think he's got. He definitely has a chance to be, the future of the Chicago Bears.
I don't think this draft class is a great quarterback class, but I think you could have 2 good quarterbacks in Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward. How do you view those 2 quarterbacks, and do you have a preference one over the other?
Yeah, I haven't watched. I don't make evaluations on guys until I watch tape on them, and I haven't watched enough tape on either one of the guys. I just know this. There's not a Jaden Daniels or C.J. Stroud or Joe Burrow that I've seen so far. And here's the problem that happens if you push them up in the draft as if they are that guy. That is when real danger comes, because then the expectation of that guy is you better play like that. And when they don't have the skill set of that guy and they don't play like that guy, you ruin that guy. So it's a dangerous thing. I mean, every player wants to be in the top 10, but you got to be careful what you wish for, because when you do that, the expectations can be overwhelming. It can be too much for the skill set that you have or you don't have. And the next thing you're looking at is that, you got a player that's a bust. So you got to be careful with pushing people up the draft that don't belong going up the draft.
I'll tell you, Merril Hoge, the 2 players I'm most excited to see what happens with them is Abdul Carter from Penn State and then Travis Hunter, because I think pound for pound, those are the 2 best players in the draft.
Well, let me just tell you this. Teams win championships. No quarterback has ever played 60 minutes. No defense has played 60 minutes. So if you're going to do the best thing for your team, then get the best player. I agree with that.
With that being said, though, talking about quarterbacks, right? We always get into these GOAT conversations, but I'll ask it to you this way. 2 minutes left in a Super Bowl. You're down 4. You could pick one quarterback in the history of all the quarterbacks that you've seen, Merril Hoge. Who would be the quarterback that you're taking to anchor that drive?
In the history?
Yeah, the history of the game.
Oh, man. The first guy that pops out of my head would be John Elway. John Elway. I don't feel bad about John Elway.
Because
he just pops in my head right away. A guy just because I played against him so many times.
Obviously, an all-time great, but it feels like already, right? When you look at the greatest quarterbacks of all time, we know Brady is 1. Montana probably 2, and then I think people are already saying Mahomes is 3, and if he wins this one coming up in 2 weeks, he can move into 2.
I ain't gonna argue that. I'd be foolish to argue that otherwise. Yeah. He's earning that right to be up there as an elite. He's already elite, but yeah. I mean, listen, if you gave me Tom Brady or Patrick Mahomes or Joe Montana, man, I'm not gonna lose that one either. I think anybody you pick in history, or shoot Dan Marino. I'd take Dan Marino, man, the gunslinger.
Yeah. Before we let you run, Merril Hoge, there's a lot of speculation about the future of Myles Garrett and TJ Watt. TJ made it clear he wants to return to Pittsburgh. Myles kind of left the door open. Steelers aren't close to winning a Super Bowl. The Browns really aren't close to winning a Super Bowl. Do you think it's time for either of those players to move on and maybe go elsewhere?
Well, I'm closer. I'm closer ties to Pittsburgh, the Rooneys, knowing what they're all about, and TJ Watt, and how much they love TJ Watt. I just don't see that parting. I don't see that. Now, the Myles Garrett, I can see that team being in a position where we can get some picks, and based on the mistakes they've made from the quarterback perspective, that might give us a chance to I'll go back to teams win championships. We got to give up our best player, but it gives us a chance to build a team. So I can see Myles Garrett going somewhere a lot sooner than I can.
There we go. Merril Hoge joining us on the Zach Gelb Show.
Merril, always appreciate the time. Enjoy the Super Bowl and what a setup you got there. We appreciate it.
Take
My
a
pleasure.
glance at
Thank
our
you.
studio,
Appreciate it.
though, right now. I have a complaint, actually, Manny, and this has to do with your show.
What do we do now?
What do you mean, what do you do now?
Well, first you poo-poo on our promo for the Super Bowl.
Don't get so sensitive. I was poking fun. I was just having people react. You know what, Stu? Do this again. Ready? Just so we don't hurt Manny's feelings.
because Manny's very sensitive around here. You can't make any jokes with him. Here was the great promo,
Grammy Award
sensational promo. Yeah. They honored the legacy of Fats Waller in the correct way.
Thank you.
This is the great promo that Maggie and Perloff put out, along with EJ, Bogish, and some scrub named Manny Rodriguez. Here is the promo that they did to say, hey, we're going to New Orleans. Go ahead.
All right, guys, let's give them something before New Orleans, all right? And a 1, and a 2, and a oh, yeah, let's go. New Orleans, yeah.
That's music.
All right, guys, cool. Awesome, take 5. I think we got it. You sound really great.
We did in fact have it, yes.
Okay, so you're offended that I played that, is what you're telling me.
No, I'm not offended that you played it. I'm honored that you played it on your
my
prestigious
ears are
show.
right now.
So are mine. I'm very happy that you were able to play it on such a great show of yours, on this such great show. But your take at the end of the day was that you poo-pooed it.
I wouldn't say I poo-pooed it. I just think I had fun at your guys' expense. I think that's the difference.
So was that the Beatles' new release?
Yes, actually, yes.
Oh.
Yeah. Brought back George Harrison and John Lennon. Okay, complaint number 2 then.
My dad texted me when I was in the middle of a rant. And he goes...
At Nicely Produced?
Yeah, that is his Twitter account. He said, I can no longer watch the show with that little bleeping gritty behind you. My dad, he despises the Philadelphia Flyers.
Understandable.
Like his most hated team ever. He will watch Rangers-Flyers games and he'll be like, get that bleep out! Like he just hates the Flyers.
Islanders-Flyers tonight. Who's he going to root for?
The Islanders, to me, are not a rivalry as a Ranger.
Continue.
Like, they're on Long Island. I get it. Like, I've never hated the Islanders in my life.
Okay.
But my dad hates the Flyers.
Mm-hmm.
And Perloff has this gritty mascot
That is
in the
Perloff's,
studio.
yes.
And it's in the background. So do us a favor. and tell Perloff that you have to get rid of that after 10 a.m. Eastern time, or else Bob Gelb is going to be very upset with me.
Well, you know how I feel about the city of Philadelphia.
I love the city of Philadelphia.
I no comment.
Well, what? You see, you like a Fugazi Pat Boyle. That's what you are. You Fugazi.
It's a good-looking dude.
Pat Boyle also, I hate Philadelphia. Now he's dating a girl from Philadelphia. He's at the Eagles playoff game a few weeks ago, eating a cheesesteak, screaming EAGLES Eagles, and he spelled it better than the mayor did in Philly.
Listen, he's made some bad life decisions. It's very obvious, previous and current. You know what? If he wants to spend his weekends in America's armpit, that is Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, okay, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
The armpit of America is not referred to as Philadelphia.
Well, geographically speaking, you take a look at America, it's basically the armpit.
Do you know what most people usually call the armpit of America?
The state across the river.
Yeah,
New Jersey.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's Philadelphia.
Yeah. See,
it's Philly.
I don't like to deal with fake outrage. And this is just fake. He doesn't actually hate Philadelphia, folks. He doesn't. You don't. You're a fraud.
I do.
You Fugazi. You're a fraud. All right, anyway.
I got some bad things about that.
Coming up with the latest sports flash, here he is, Manny Rodriguez.
Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash.
All right, Zach, 14 people connected with the figure skating community are among those who perished in last night's mid-air collision over the Potomac River in Washington, D.C. Skaters were returning from the U.S. Figure Skating Championships over the weekend in Wichita, Kansas. NFL Ravens kicker Justin Tucker has been accused of inappropriate sexual behavior by 6 massage therapists. Several women say Tucker's behavior was so egregious they ended his sessions early or refused to work with him again, and management at 2 spas have banned him from returning. His attorneys deny any inappropriate behavior from the 13-year vet, saying any suggestion to the contrary is fictitious and an utterly baseless claim. The Ravens and the NFL declined to comment. NBA Heat guard Terry Rozier is the focus of a federal investigation involving unusual betting activities from back in 2023 when he was a member of the Charlotte Hornets. The league conducted its own investigation and found no violation of league rules. Speaking of the Heat, team legend Dwayne Wade revealed on his podcast that he is missing nearly half of his right kidney after tests showed a cancerous tumor. And finally, in baseball, Max Scherzer and the Toronto Blue Jays are in agreement on a 1-year deal worth $15.5 million. Scherzer turns 40 in July. I'm Manny Rodriguez.
This is the Infinity Sports Network. Follow us on X. Our handle is INF Sports Network. That's INF Sports Network on X.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Hey, this is Howie. And this is Nick from the Backstreet Boys. And you're listening to the Zach Gelb Show. And guess what? Zach is back. All right.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
All right, welcome back in. It is the Zach Gelb Show right here on the Infinity Sports Network. So let's do this based off of the Merril Hoge conversation. Because I feel as if right now, if you ask most people, hey, you get one pick, quarterback, down 4 in a Super Bowl. You need a touchdown. Who are you taking? I would say that one of the 3 answers from the majority of people would now be, hey, Brady, Montana, or Mahomes. One of those 3, I think, would be an answer for anybody. And Merril Hoge ended up saying John Elway. So let's just go around the room here and see what the answers are. Stu, who would your quarterback be? Just wondering.
I think I would still go Tom Brady at this point.
Okay, so you're taking then Tommy Brady. Samter, who would your answer be?
John Elway, but I was surprised to see him 10th on the all-time list for fourth quarter comebacks, behind the likes of Matthew Stafford, Russell Wilson, and Matt Ryan. So he's a lot lower down than I remember.
Wait, do you have that list in front of you?
Yeah.
Give me the 10.
All right, so number 1, Tom Brady.
And this is just most fourth quarter comebacks ever?
Correct.
Okay, would you rather have Elway or this quarterback? So I'd rather have Brady than Elway.
And Brady has the most with 46. Second is Peyton Manning.
I'd rather have Elway than Peyton Manning. I think Elway was more clutch quarterback than Peyton.
It feels that way, but apparently not. And this is regular season also, so maybe we're thinking, in the playoffs, maybe Manning has fallen off a little bit. Roethlisberger 3rd.
I would rather have Elway than Roethlisberger.
Matt Ryan and Matthew Stafford tied for 4th.
I would rather have Elway than both those quarterbacks.
Drew Brees 6th.
I'd rather have Elway. I think Elway's the better quarterback.
And the interesting thing is most of these names are pretty contemporary. Johnny Unitas is 7th, which is really interesting.
Yeah, I'd go Elway. Like, if Mad Dog Roos could probably argue Unitas and have no problem with it, okay.
Dan Marino 8.
I think Marino was the better pound-for-pound player, but Marino never won a Super Bowl. Elway won 2 at the end of his career, so I'd rather have Elway.
Russell Wilson 9 and John Elway 10.
Yeah, I'd rather have Elway than Russell Wilson.
Oh, 100%.
So,
And then behind them, like Phillip Rivers, Fran Tarkenton, Vinny Testaverde, Derek Carr, Brett Favre, Eli Manning, Joe Montana, Ryan Tannehill, Kirk Cousins, Andy Dalton, Warren Moon.
Ryan Tannehill was what number?
Tied for 17th with Joe Montana. Ryan Tannehill and Joe Montana in the same sentence.
So this just shows you why Belichick says stats are for losers. Like, I get it. It's fourth quarter comeback stats. Like, okay, the wins are the wins. But you can't tell me in the history of the game that there are 9 other quarterbacks that you'd rather have over John Elway.
And with Joe Montana, I mean, the 49ers were so dominant for such a long period of time.
Yeah.
He probably didn't need to make a lot of fourth quarter comebacks.
Yeah. So I would go with Brady. And here's why. I know the Montana fan is going to tell me, oh, well, Joe's never lost a Super Bowl. All right, Brady got to more Super Bowls. And even in the 3 Super Bowls that Brady lost, he had a lead late. Like, he drove late, found Randy Moss in the first one. They had before the Manningham play, right? They increased their lead. You then look at the Eagles Super Bowl that they lost. He threw 505 yards in a Super Bowl and lost. Plus all the game-winning drives that he had down 28-3, down 10 to the LOB. The first Super Bowl victory up against the Rams, the greatest show on turf. So there's just so many iconic moments by Brady. So I would still put Brady over Montana if I needed a quarterback late. And also, man, Mahomes, every time he has the ball, he is the quarterback, right, that gives you that Brady feel of it doesn't matter what the score is. It doesn't matter how far you're down in the game or how much you're down by the game. You just have that belief that he's going to come back. But you're right, with Montana, and with somebody, they just bludgeoned the opponents, and they ended up not being the game. So I would end up still going with Stu that I think it's Brady. But I do wonder how the perception shifts if Mahomes wins this Super Bowl. I still think it's ludicrous to say that Mahomes is a better quarterback than Brady, in the moment. But Mahomes then shoots up that list to number 2. He goes to number 2, where you take a glance that I think he does move past Mahomes. And it's wild because I think the world of Peyton Manning as a quarterback, the fact that I already have Mahomes in front of Peyton Manning, and Manning has already been thrown into the fourth best quarterback of all time. Like, that's, I would say, Brady's 1. Right now, Montana's 2, Mahomes 3, and Manning's 4. Even though in a big moment, I'd rather have Elway over Peyton Manning. It's kind of crazy where for a while, Brady and Manning were going blow for blow, and you felt like, all right, you're watching these two legendary quarterbacks, and Manning has already been thrown to 4, and after 7 or 8 years, you could have Mahomes go up as high as 2, basically nipping away at the heels of one Tom Brady. But with that being said, hey, Tom Brady still beat Mahomes in an AFC championship game and a Super Bowl. So it is fascinating when you do take a glance and you look at the QB conversation and the all-time greats. Like, we have Montana coming on at the Super Bowl. I wonder how he takes that conversation. Because for 20-something years, he was viewed as the greatest quarterback of all time. 20-something years, viewed as the greatest quarterback of all time. All of next week in the Mahomes conversation, the conversation's going to be, would you rather be Brady? Like, do you think Mahomes or Brady? Who's going to be the GOAT? And it's almost disrespectful to Montana, even though, right, you're still a top 3 quarterback of all time. I don't think Joe will care about the conversation because we've had him talk about it with Brady before. I wonder if you get a little bit more animated, though, Joe Montana, when it comes to that. All righty, that will do it for the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. Big thanks to Merril Hoge for joining us today. Big thanks to Stu. Big thanks to Samter, as always, and each and every one of you. We'll be back tomorrow, coming up at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific time. Last show of the week. Last show here in New York before we head down to New Orleans for all of Radio Row next week, which is going to be fun as we get you set closer and closer for Super Bowl 59 between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles. A little battle with Patrick Mahomes and Saquon Barkley. Like, it's not disrespectful to Jalen Hurts. I opened up the show saying Jalen Hurts is the most disrespected player in the NFL. But from a marketing standpoint, it seems like if you had to pick one player for the Chiefs, it's Mahomes. One player for the Eagles, it's Saquon Barkley. And then you'll have like Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift popping up in the background as well. All righty, that will do it for us today. Big thanks to Manny Rodriguez as well on the updates. We'll talk tomorrow, everybody. We out. Bye-bye. Peace.
You're in a 5-minute break.